Willow picked out a book from the library this week. It's a children's book about the White City and about how somebody left $1 million, some millionaire left his fortune buried in the White City during the World's Fair.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Is it like fiction?
I don't know. We're going to take it back because we're pretty sure it talks about killing people. So,
does Lion King.
Gotta be real careful going to the old library and just letting your...
Welcome to The Cover, where three Hoosier friends judge books by their covers and movies by their trailers.
That's right. I'm Brett, here with my fellow Indiana natives, Remington and Marcus, ready to dive into the stories that keep us up all night and occasionally put us to sleep.
Whether you're a bookworm, movie buff, or just here for the witty banter, we've got you covered.
Each week, we'll dissect a different book or movie, sharing fun facts, hot takes, and moments that make Marcus cry. Spoiler alert, we're not experts, but we're definitely opinionated.
From literary masterpieces to blockbuster flops, nothing is safe from our snarky reviews and wild tangents. Who knew Hoosiers could be this entertaining?
So grab your popcorn and reading glasses because we're about to embark on a hilarious journey through the pages and screens that shape our lives. Or at least our weekends.
You're listening to The Cover. Let's get the show on the road before one of our kids wakes up.
Pretty good lineup.
Oh, it's going to be a great lineup.
Pretty good lineup.
You know, this is a great lineup.
Did you play baseball?
The Pacers.
Did you bet? Did you bet clean up? You bet. Yeah, I know what you batted. You batted 1 or 3. 1. I knew it. Marcus is a first hitter.
I always try to get walked.
What do you call a leadoff? Leadoff?
A leadoff, yes.
Man.
I was lead off until
that's when you know
senior
you're
year.
smart.
I started betting 2. I really like 2
I
a
betted
lot.
2 a little bit, but usually I was 1.
Yeah. Pacers have a pretty good lineup. You guys know that?
Paul George, Danny Granger,
Nope.
Roy Hibbert.
Wrong decade, my man.
How long ago
Did
was
Paul
that?
George and
You know what?
Danny Granger play together?
I
Yeah,
think
they
Paul
did.
George was the replacement.
came
though,
in,
for
No,
right.
they were
Granger.
on the team.
Right.
And
Granger
then
gets
Danny
hurt.
Granger got hurt, and they were like, "Oh crap, what are we gonna do?" And then they made the Eastern Conference Finals with 22-year-old Paul George, who is the reason that the Indiana Pacers are now
Isn't that
in the
wild?
finals.
I saw something on that trade.
For Oklahoma City and for Indiana.
Yeah, Kings chose wrong because the Kings just traded De'Aaron Fox, right? Didn't they get rid of him?
To the Spurs or something.
For Scott Pollard.
Yeah. But what's so? I mean, it's so
As
funny.
Indy grows.
The Pacers
right.
are the Pacers the only team of that everything that shifted that is still saying, "Hey, we love the move that we made."
Dude, they're like the opposite
you mean,
of the Colts.
You mean with Sacramento?
Well, it was Sacramento and there was a bunch of teams involved.
Well, okay. So first, if you're talking about Paul George,
Yep.
the first thing that they did was they traded Paul George to OKC,
Yes.
and what they got back was Sabonis and Oladipo.
Which was good for
It
that
was-
time.
it was good.
We made a good run.
And Oladipo got very hurt.
Well, not
her and-
later. I mean, we played a full season. And,
and
then,
I know,
and then
but
the
he
second
ended
season
up
he was
getting
done.
very hurt.
it was sad his ego to see that. I think that was his downfall ultimately.
Well,
not-
his downfall, his ego didn't show until after the Pacers, like, basically let him go. Like,
Yeah.
they're like,
I hated
But
that.
he hasn't been anything since.
and I
I
think that was
loved
because
watching
he loved coming home to Indiana.
Man, I loved watching him play.
But then they decided to deal Sabonis
Correct.
and keep Miles, and they dealt Sabonis for Tyrese and Buddy Hield.
Yes.
And then, so basically they turned
moves.
Paul George into
Yep.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Right. And a couple other things. But yeah.
But essentially,
Cheaper, a much cheaper Paul George still.
But
Much
they've done
younger.
that. They've done that. Like they've.
maybe now.
Did you guys see that firefighter that got basically like in New York, a Pacers fan who has
Yes.
always lived in
Dude,
New York?
so
Yes.
awesome.
And they started badgering him, throwing trash at him. So Pat McAfee got him on the show. He went down the line of successors. He was basically Reggie, and then Reggie
Oh, yeah.
went, and it went Danny, Paul,
Oladipo.
and then Tyrese. But it is crazy. Like you can see, like the Pacers have always done a good job of like handing off to an up and coming star.
Well, I'll tell you what though, Carlisle can coach.
He can.
Oh,
We got two
If-
rings
if-
in the locker room. If you're gonna pick one,
if we win, it'll be I think because of Carlisle.
Yep.
Well, is a huge coaching upper hand for sure.
It is a coaching upper
OKC's
hand, yeah.
coaches first, second,
And
year,
you know,
something like
this episode comes out the day of Game 3,
Which is
so
our
I'm
first Pacers
assuming
home game.
I'm assuming we'll be
we're
up 2-0 again.
2-0. Scold,
Yeah, for sure.
We're
Coming home 2-0.
What's our record on the road? in
Sweep
the
or
playoffs?
gentleman's sweep is what I want to know.
Probably a gentleman's
The
sweep.
only
Is it
We're
gentleman's sweep? We give them one at home. Is that what a
Gentleman's-
gentleman's sweep is?
Yeah,
Or
Five.
it's
games?
5 games.
Yeah.
So gentleman's sweep.
Doesn't have to be at home.
You
Does not.
beat them at their place in Game 5.
That's a gentleman. Yeah, I think that's.
But
This
be
is going to
honest,
age well.
when we lost Game 5 to the
terrible.
Knicks, didn't you just get a little nervous?
No.
Man, I was nervous until we
We
were
were
up
the better team the
15.
entire time.
I got nervous. I got nervous when Halliburton just went missing, and that's what he cannot do this series.
Well, there were things
That's why he didn't get the MVP.
Okay.
It
That's
was
sad that he
5-4.
didn't get the
That was
MVP.
in Game 5 though. There were things that Mikal Bridges was doing to Halliburton that would get him arrested in most states. I mean, it was ridiculous.
but okay.
and
Maybe-
that's exactly what OKC's going to do too.
Unsung hero might be a little strong, but
Carl
dude,
Anthony Towns is an ogre.
Oh, dude,
He's the
did
worst.
So many
A
things.
zesty ogre.
Do yourself a favor right now if you're listening. Pause this podcast.
I've seen so many-
Go
Since
look
you-
at our meme.
Go
Since
look
you
at our
said
meme.
it,
but also
since you said it, I've seen
literally
so
go on
many.
YouTube and do
Oh my
Carl
god!
Anthony Towns mic'd up. It's hilarious, but it's real. It's
and
real.
then it's taken hit in New York when they lost. A guy took a camera out and said, "Do your best, zesty Carl Anthony Towns," and it's just like
Dude.
fan after fan after
New York
fan.
fans.
New
So-
York fans.
So this is the same fans, by the way, that when they won against Boston, they were saying bing bong, all that stupid freaking stuff. And I will tell you what, man, for about a day and a half after we beat them, I literally just watched all the New York media and everybody crying,
Yeah.
and it was the greatest
I haven't seen
thing
Stephen
ever.
A. What's Stephen A. Smith do?
My screen time on my phone has just jumped tremendously.
I honestly, I was nervous, but I honestly thought it was over as soon as Halliburton did the choke symbol. I was like, this team's different. It's not going to go 7.
Yeah.
I didn't think so.
The New York paper basically said it's over.
So when Aaron Neesmith got hurt in Game 4,
That's the New York Times, by the way. The paper in New York is called.
Yeah, he
the
got
New
hurt
York
in 4.
Times.
in 4, I was like, oh no, like because I really honestly thought Aaron Neesmith was our player of the playoffs. Defensively, he was shutting anyone down. He's just that.
Scored 30 points in that one
He's
game.
that guy. He could go out and do what you need him to do on defense. And then, dude, Nembhard, holy cow,
stepped
he locked
up.
down Jalen Brunson in Game 6,
6
unlike anything
steals.
I've. Holy
I'll tell you what
cow.
made me
6.
nervous in game 6 is that they could not shut down Robinson. And I don't know what happened to Robinson. I don't know if he got hurt.
He was tired.
He just didn't play the second
That's a
half.
lot of man.
Riley
That's
said-
a lot of man to run up and down.
I said I can't
Dude.
tell you why he looks so strange. Riley goes, he looks like he put his finger in a light socket.
His arms are so long.
He dominated that first
He
half.
did.
I was like, if I'm Rick Carlisle, I go into that locker room and I say, I will give you all $1 million apiece to not let him get a
He had
rebound.
5 offensive rebounds in the first
In the
quarter.
first quarter.
Yeah, he was absolutely owning us.
So,
but they couldn't keep up with us. That was
So Game 6, I was watching at home, and every time that Carl Anthony Towns would do something stupid, I would just say, "Oh my god!" And Reed comes in. He's like, or he was watching with us or whatever, and he's like, "Why are you keep saying that?" So I showed it to him.
What's
And
the
then
other- what's the other thing
and then
he
Reed
said?
was doing that every time.
What's the other thing he said? There's another quote that he said on a YouTube video that was so flamboyant. Nate, can you look that up for us?
This is worth
there's
the
this
time.
quote
This
that's
is
going around. It's like something to the effect of, and the thing of it is, or something like that. I can't remember. Like the first thing if you type in Carl Anthony Towns quotes, you'll find it.
Well, welcome to the Cover Podcast. We're based in Indianapolis, up 2-0 in the finals as you listen to this.
3 Who's Your Friends?
I'm your host, Brett Wiggins. As always, unless we're on a live recording. To my left is...
Dimension 6.
And sitting to my right is...
6.
Sir.
Remington Ramsey.
Thank you. We answer 9 questions every week about one of your favorite books or movies. I will tell you right now, this is one of your favorite books you just haven't read yet. Sir Remington, second question. What are we covering?
Young, searching, fresh out of business school, Phil Knight borrowed $50 from his father and launched a company with one single mission: import high-quality, low-cost running shoes from Japan. Selling the shoes from the trunk of his Plymouth Valiant, Knight grossed $8,000 that first year in 1964. Today, Nike's annual sales top $30 billion. In this age of startups, Knight's Nike is the gold standard, and a swoosh is more than a logo. A symbol of grace and a greatness, it's one of the few icons instantly recognized in every corner of the world. But Knight, the man behind the swoosh, has always been a mystery. Now, in a memoir that's surprising, humble, unfiltered, funny, and beautifully crafted, he tells his story at last. It all begins with a classic crossroads moment. 24 years old, backpacking through Asia and Europe and Africa, wrestling with life's greatest questions. Knight decides the unconventional path is the only one for him. Rather than work for a big corporation, he will create something all on his own, something new, dynamic, and different. Knight details the many terrifying risks he encountered along the way, the crushing setbacks, the ruthless competitors, the countless doubters and haters, and hostile bankers, as well as the many thrilling triumphs and narrow escapes. Above all, he recalls the foundational relationships that formed the heart and soul of Nike with his former track coach, the irascible and charismatic Bill Bowerman, and with his first employees, a ragtag group of misfits and savants who quickly become a band of swoosh-crazed brothers. This book is Shoe Dog, a memoir by the creator of Nike, Phil Knight.
I loved this book.
Yeah.
Loved it.
This was your first time?
I will say, I think that if you... I don't know if it's going to resonate the same with people. If you listen to it or whatever, it may or may not resonate the same if you haven't run a business and you're not working with business people and things like that. But
Maybe.
It is an incredible story.
I mean, I think that's life
and
of anything.
super well written.
I think it resonates. I think I put a caveat to that. I would say it resonates more with people who do, but I think it's the type of book that can resonate with anyone. Overcoming obstacles,
Just
overcoming odds,
fantastic.
like not taking like all these obstacles as this is not meant to be, and just pushing forward.
His obstacles he overcame were amazing, regardless of whether you have business background or.
It felt like you ever seen Pursuit of Happiness?
Mm-hmm.
It felt like that. The struggle in that movie. You just wish you wish you could watch the rest, because the entire movie is struggle. Yeah. And then at the end he gets his break and then it ends. That's kind of
how
this
the book is.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Now we know how it ends, so like I think as a fan watching it unfold, you're like in the last chapter it's like the ending credits where it's like Phil Knight went on to be a billionaire.
Since you brought it up, I know we haven't asked, but can I give a little hidden gem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dean Witter. That is where Will Smith's character works in Pursuit of Happiness.
Where?
And at Dean Witter, the wealth management advisory place, or the selling socks or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's also where Phil Knight works when he's in Hawaii, when he gets that first job.
Oh, that's interesting. That is a hidden gem. That's a very good hidden gem.
I'm convinced there's like 4 storylines in all of Earth now, because every episode it's connected to some. There's four storylines throughout all of.
I feel like we're the modern day National Treasure or Da Vinci Code.
I will tell you right now, within the next 4 months, there will be a
Let's put that on a meme.
There will be a movie or book or something announced that's coming out that has to do with Phil Knight or Nike or something we're talking about
think
in
so?
this episode. Yes, I very confident about that.
would watch that movie. Well, that movie
Is he
already
still
exists.
alive?
That movie
Is he still alive?
That movie already exists.
Yeah,
I would rather
well-
watch The Indifferent Stars Above
well, this is
Dude, that'd be a good
or Devil in
movie.
the White City.
Devil in the White City needs to be a series.
Willow picked out a book from the library this week. It's a children's book about the White City and about how somebody left $1 million, some millionaire left his fortune buried in the White City during the World's Fair.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Is it like fiction?
I don't know. We're gonna take it back because we're pretty sure it talks about killing people. So, which
So
is
does Lion King.
Gotta be real careful going to the old library and just letting your daughter pick out whatever she wants.
dude, that's a whole different story.
What does our librarian have to say? Careful?
Did you
Not
find
careful?
that quote yet from Karl Anthony Towns?
There's so many
No, just like it's a video of him sitting there.
Timberwolves
He's being
fan
interviewed.
says
It's like a
there's so
Zoom.
many stupid
It's like a
quotes.
Zoom interview. It's like if you. Okay, I'll look it up. Keep going.
So it's funny though. Rem said what I know going into it. I knew that there was a movie made about it called Air that wasn't actually a movie made about it at all. That's what I knew going into it. Marcus, you were the one that was like, "Hey, we got to do this book." Even though I think Rem had already read it. What'd you know going into it before you read it though?
I don't remember who told me to read it. I don't. But
It's probably Nate. I think it was Nate.
It had
Producer
come
Nate.
highly recommended. No, dude, I read this like 3 years ago. You think it was Nate?
Nate is vehemently arguing.
It was Nate that recommended it to me. Producer Nate recommended it to me at one of Rem's pool parties.
By the way, we're doing Karate Kid in a few weeks. Also, Nate's.
And I
recommendation.
went on a run a few years ago where I was listening to a bunch of different autobiographies and things, including
one
Green
run
Lights
where you listen
and-
to multiple autobiographies
in a row.
That's a long
Yes,
run.
boom, 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 boom. Yep, like Forrest Gump. And you okay there? And so I listened to this and just thought it was fantastic. I loved it the first time I listened to it. I loved it this time that I listened to it.
Yeah.
And then over the last 2 days, I read through it again. It's just really good.
Rem, when's the first time you read the book?
It was probably in high school.
Oh wow, really?
No, I'm just kidding. It was called. I'm just trying to see how old I can take it before Marcus is like, it wasn't even when you were in high school. When was it written? I read it.
He was looking it up. He was literally going to look it
I
up.
read it when it came out. This was one of the first I actually think I got on
It's
Audible.
2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I graduated in 2011. Okay. So it was one of those that I was very excited to read and disappointed it and get into like this. Like when I read ahead, I was like, oh, it's not going to get into that. And I was just like, I'll just go ahead and read it anyway. And I was like very excited about it because 2016 would have been a year after I started my company.
Right.
And so I was in.
What a good time to read
Yeah,
that
I was
book.
in the thick of all. Basically, I was in the crap that he was in, and I don't know, man. He writes in a way he's not a Christian. I don't believe. Like he doesn't write from a
No.
Christian's perspective, but he does have certain.
He would probably say he's spiritual.
Yeah, but not like Phil. This is where I was
Which-
getting at because we talked about Phil Jackson's spirituality.
I was
which is
expecting
like,
some Phil Jackson. Take
I was
from
too.
You. I was
No.
expecting.
I
more
was
of it.
I was expecting it's going to be more like, Hindu, Indian, especially with all his world traveling, like just putting it all together, universalism. But I do think like
There's so much less of that in this book.
there is like this is a much
It's-
more
it's-
enjoyable book. He doesn't put
Yeah.
emphasis on, wrong types of faith, which I think we've read a couple books like that. But anyway, his memoir is just so good. And we looked it up. He does have a ghostwriter, and I'll tell you who that is here in a little bit. But I don't want to take away from Phil. But we kept asking, did he write it himself? Did he write it himself? And I think this ghostwriter did such a good job of capturing him.
His voice.
And
He got his voice, for sure.
he wouldn't have been able to write certain nuances that this ghostwriter did to capture Phil. And that's the unfortunate truth of like writing is not everyone is talented enough to write the way they would tell a story.
It's a skill, but what's interesting, if somebody was making an autobiography documentary about somebody and they didn't direct their own documentary, nobody would be like, oh, they didn't do their own documentary. But with writing, we have that reaction when in reality we shouldn't, because it's a real skill that like we shouldn't expect somebody to do on their own. I'm reading my own book to Willow every night. We do 1 or 2 chapters.
On leadership?
Yeah.
I tried to do that. Charlie asked me to read my book. And so I started reading it, and I was like, there's nothing that translates to a child.
But even reading my own book, I'm like, second edition. God, I'm just marking it up constantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's so well done that you literally question, how is this guy this good?
All right, I found the quote. So this
is for Carl Anthony
This is Carl
Towns.
Anthony Towns. He's sitting at a computer. I don't even know what it is about. It's just this 2-second clip, and he goes, "And after all of that," That's it. And so this guy takes this microphone after like New York. It's either before or after the game. So like I think it's before because the fans are still in a good mood. Mm-hmm. So he goes up to them like, "Give us your best zesty Karl Anthony Towns," and they're all just like, every single one of them is like, "Oh my gosh!"
So you think if they could take a trade right now, Cat for KD straight up, would New York fans want that?
New York fans would.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because they're tired of him and his antics.
Well, because maybe they think win now.
No, because you can't play Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns on the floor at the same time.
But you can KD.
Dude, how can you play KD and Jalen
How on
Brunson
earth
the
would
same
KD fix
time?
that problem?
Because okay, you have Mitchell there, so you play Mitchell more. You put KD in there.
Got it. I think Brunson.
But Karl
might be-
Anthony
another
Towns
crazy-
and Brunson are just such defensive liabilities.
Not to get lost. Oh, I see what you're saying. Not to get lost in this specific basketball series, but I saw a stat and a reel on it. The seven top 3-man combinations of players playing together with 3 minutes all season long. The top 7 came from New York.
Yeah, Thibodeau.
One team.
Thibodeau. Well,
Crazy.
Kenny Smith had a joke. He goes, Tom Thibodeau wouldn't play 9 players on a baseball team.
Right. Did you see? So that was funny because they mentioned that in the post game after the Pacers won. I was just like, it was one of those games where after we won, I was like, I'm gonna watch another 3 hours
Yes.
of just Pacers.
Fresh as a daisy.
And he goes, well, maybe not that, but they've got enough for a football team. They've got 12. And Ernie's like, yeah, but football only needs 11. But we got what you're going for. Those guys.
I
man.
will say this.
Hey, R.I.P. to that show until they come back next year.
They're coming back. They got picked up. They
I
already
know.
got picked up.
By ESPN.
Yeah.
Yes. Jalen Brunson can create his own shot very well.
Yeah.
Better than maybe any little point guard
Anyone I've ever seen.
Holy
Maybe
cow.
anyone. Like, he is absurd.
It is
He
absurd.
can create his own shot very well.
And
hey,
after all of that,
He dribbles a lot.
Marcus, what are we drinking? This is an unofficial question.
why would you say that?
Right
Right after
I had it in my notes because I love this drink. By the way, in the book, they're in Japan and Taiwan. Taiwan?
Mm-mm.
They're somewhere.
They're in Japan when they had
Now
his first Mai
that's
Tais.
different.
They're in Asia Minor
That's
on a
different.
missions trip.
Okay, that's different.
Go ahead.
I specifically made this drink because I felt like it was a pivotal point.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
I added
in
more
the
rum
book.
to mine. I'm
Multiple
feeling
times.
it.
Twice.
Yeah, multiple times. Often they are getting drunk on either Mai Tais or these Muay Thais or whatever they're called. But anyway,
Which is interesting. He
Um,
doesn't talk about drinking at all in the book, except for when he's hanging out on Japanese business trips, and it was almost like
no,
sake.
that's not true because Hayes drinks all the time,
And they talk about
I'm
the
saying
butt
Phil
face.
Knight specifically.
No, butt face retreats.
Phil
Talk
talks about
it.
how
That's
drunk
later.
he would
That's like
get
the
with
very
Hayes.
end of the book. I'm just saying, like the rise when he's like
Well-
forming his company.
He's getting drunk every freaking night with Hayes at the public accounting.
That's true. When he has the other job to try to be an accountant. Yeah.
Anyway,
But you said the word never.
Mrs. Bowerman.
Hyperbole.
Mrs.
I made the Brett Wiggins mistake.
Mrs. Bowerman now gathered us in the living room. In honor of our distinguished guest, she announced, tonight we're serving Mai Tais, because Mrs. Bowerman didn't drink at all. And remember, Bowerman gets crazy drunk.
Yep.
And yeah, off of like 2 or 3 Mai Tais.
Right.
And then later...
Maybe that's what I was thinking,
then
because he gets drunk on
later,
too.
Later, the Japanese guy
Plays guitar.
is playing his guitar.
Yeah. Oh, that
and
whole thing
he's singing
frustrated me.
He's singing the Western song and then an Italian
As
song.
soon as Bowerman gets introduced to the company, I thought right away two thoughts I had immediately. One, how is Bowerman going to screw him over? Which he doesn't end up screwing him over, but I thought the whole
I
time
thought
he was
that
going
too,
to.
and the whole thing with Johnson.
Yes.
Didn't you think Johnson that was something that was going with that?
I thought Johnson was. He was too in. He was all in. But the second thought I
and-
had.
you think that
And I know this is a book,
did
so we
you
need to
think-
explain to people that who don't know what we're talking about. But like,
Yeah. So Bowerman is the Oregon track coach. He was Phil Knight's track coach at Oregon.
A
Phil
star.
basically invites him to be a part of his company.
Not
and
true. No.
Good.
He sent Bowerman some
right.
of the shoes.
And he's like, hey, how do I get in on
came
this?
down, and
Yes.
Bowerman said, I want in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but then he invites him over to his house. Bowerman has a lawyer there. Phil's young, doesn't know what he's doing. I literally thought he was screwing him over, but he wasn't. And then secondly,
He gives him
he wrote it
51%.
He wrote it in a way where it's like, ew.
The
That is the
se-
way he
the-
wrote it.
the
Like, I didn't even read it. I didn't pay attention.
The second that he brings up his son Matthew, I could have told you Matthew was going to die. I knew it.
Really?
Dude, I knew
Just
it.
the solemn way he brought him up?
It just felt that way.
Yeah.
I was waiting for
I
something
didn't know
to
he
happen.
was going to die, but I definitely felt the pain
Yeah.
of this relationship he had with one of his sons.
Yeah. Which every time
And
we read...
you would only write about that person if they wouldn't read it, in which case he passed. Like,
yes.
you're right. I should have seen that
Well,
coming.
that's
his
interesting.
his willingness to write honestly about human beings
Yes.
was...
So this was my point about Johnson.
Yeah.
So he was terrible with this relationship with Johnson, and basically admitted. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. So basically,
It never does with anybody. Yeah.
He just admits that I was not a good partner. I sent Johnson. Johnson was just annoying me with the letters, and there were so many letters I just didn't answer them. And then Johnson starts making these big moves that he would have made on his own. And then he goes off on the East Coast and does all this saying, and he's just asking for words of affirmation. Send me one letter, tell me I'm doing good, anything. And Phil's like, I didn't send anything.
I feel like I had Cutco reps like that, but they didn't perform as well as Johnson did.
They just needed all the attention.
They needed all the attention,
But
and
Phil
I just
writes-
wouldn't give it to him.
So
And I'm
at
just
first,
like,
when you're
please
reading this,
leave.
you're like, yeah, this Johnson guy is really annoying. We've all been there. But if you're Phil and you're giving him more, and then halfway through the relationship with Johnson and his dad have a meeting with Phil to talk about, am I going to continue working for this company right before you guys go like big, maybe even public? And Phil's like, I got news for you. I got no money to give you, but I want you to stay. Basically, that was the only words of affirmation he ever gave him, is like, please just stay. He's like, no, all right, I'll stay.
Yeah, exactly.
like, isn't that crazy? But like, I kept waiting for Phil to, he just basically wrote, yeah, I was a jerk to this guy and he's still at the company.
But he couldn't have been that big of a jerk to everybody because they
No,
were
I don't think he
so
was.
loyal.
I don't think
Dude.
Phil was a jerk to anyone except for Johnson. I think that relationship, he was just like, for whatever reason, like, he kept admitting I was not very nice to this guy.
Well, he did the same thing to the guy who ended up quitting and going and working for Onitsuka. The guy that took over Johnson's spot at the retail outlet in California, Burke or whatever.
Yeah.
He did. It was the same thing. Burke would send him stuff all the time. He was like, "Yeah, I ignored that."
This is
too.
a good segue to our... What's your 30-second synopsis? Marcus,
Is it a good segue?
well, you'll find out why.
right.
So
Brett's a master.
I'm gonna go first because it's a good segue. Slam poetry, then 9 words. Here we go. Phil Knight, 6 miles every day. Mama bought his first pair. Would have been a great Cutco rep for at least a weekend. You're growing too fast. Super weird thing to complain about. Onizuka? More like Onisiya. What is a swoosh? It's the sound of someone running past you. Butt-face retreats took them far. So Phil Knight, Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates walk into a bar. I couldn't decide if Phil was lucky, a butthole, persistent, or all three. Just kidding. He was definitely all three. 9 words, Marcus.
Nice.
So before I do that, read that last line again.
I couldn't decide if Phil was lucky, a butthole, persistent, or all three. Just kidding. He was definitely all three.
So there's an insurance agent who sponsored our girls' softball team, and she plays on the team. And he got invited to and came to one of my breakfast events. And he was sitting next to Sarah Hudson, who knows me very, very well. And he says to Sarah, "Hey, that's my kid's softball coach," And she's like, "Oh, who?" And like, the guy on stage up there, him, And then he says, "Yeah, you just never know what you're gonna get. Like, if you're gonna get a good guy or some competitive asshole." And she just said she just waited.
She's like, so which one?
Which one? Pretty funny. Yeah.
That's so true, man. I
Both.
think about people who know me in different circles and only see me in that circle.
Sure.
I definitely, I'm the same Remington in other circles. Like, I never put on a face, but there's definitely determined Remington versus like fun-go-lucky Remington.
Yeah, like there's different.
There's
You're
different
the
modes.
same, but like it's a mode. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. Anyway, it was pretty funny. Okay, young. I get 9 words. Young Phil Knight builds company and refuses to lose.
Well done. Well done. You know what? We don't even stop and think. We're done. You just got it all. What made you stop and think?
Totally thought the Nike swoosh was the sound of a basketball going in a net growing up.
Me too.
And
Swish, swoosh.
Swish, swoosh. Like, I probably the first time I read this book back in 2016 when it first came out, which was way before you guys read the book. Definitely was probably where I was first introduced to the story of the Nike swoosh actually meaning running past somebody because it was a running shoe. Like Phil Knight,
Which he kind of made up on the spot, but still.
I mean, you don't believe that that's what actually happened?
No, he said it. Like he said.
Oh,
that-
he made yeah. No, he fell into that explanation.
Yeah,
it
but it's
kind of looks like a
awesome.
swish. Oh yeah, for sure. It gets stuck. But I think yeah, it's just like the power of Nike and the basketball brand in the 90s was like totally believable. That's why Remington believed that.
And that's when
Jordan.
that's when we were coming into
Sure. I
that
mean,
age
Jordan was at the height of his fame.
too. Yep.
Nike had won basically every major NBA athlete over.
There was no
over
other shoe, in my
Converse.
opinion. Any other shoe I looked down upon.
I thought
too. Me too.
Adidas
Me
was a
too.
new basketball brand.
Basketball. I thought the Adidas
I
was
did- I
only
thought
a
Adidas was soccer.
Soccer only.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
me, Adidas was soccer.
Does it actually stand for all day I dream about soccer? No.
No, the Puma Adidas brothers. Yeah, no.
Oh, Adidas Brothers. That's
The
the thing.
German brothers. There's 2 German brothers.
We
One,
cannot get away from Germany in this podcast.
no, man, this is a German podcast
Yeah,
with
exactly.
90% American listeners.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't.
The Germans hate
I'm gonna
listening
butcher
to
this,
us.
but the brothers, one broke off and did Puma, and those were the 2 major brands.
They
for the
both
longest time.
started at Adidas. One said, "I'm going." To
I believe so. I can look that up and verify that.
It was a crew car wash situation. Mike's.
Yeah, sure, but
Yep.
now there's only Cruise.
Oh, Mike's is done.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Mike's car wash.
Well, that's
No,
no,
they're in
no.
Fort
Mike's
Wayne.
Mike's is Northern Indiana. Crew is Central.
no one cares about that.
Rem, you go to Warsaw area multiple times a year.
Yeah, I don't get my car washed up there.
Do you wash your boat or your other
That'd be
boat?
weird.
Well, the lake washes the boat.
The lake washes the boat.
Okay, so here's my question.
Have you heard Jiminy Glick yet? I gotta send you that click. Every time you laugh like
You
that.
talking about Martin Short?
Yeah.
So
Someone else
the
told me
bank the bank complains about him having zero equity and growing too fast, and I feel like nowadays, that's like companies are losing money every single quarter, but valued at billions of dollars. Here's my question: were they ahead of the curve in how to establish major value as a company?
high growth companies.
High growth. Like, was it just before that time, or what?
I don't know. I'm trying to put myself in the bank's shoes, and here's the thing: like, the kid that the teacher says you're never going to amount to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, putting aside that a teacher should never say that to a kid, like at least in that way. Like, I'm okay with the teacher saying, "Hey, if you keep going down this road, you will fail."
Yeah.
But it takes those moments for those kids to wake up and actually
If
do
the
something.
teacher wouldn't have said it, would it ever have happened? Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So now I think about these banks, and you want a villain. You want the banks to be the villain because Phil Knight. You're a big fan of the brand Nike, and now you're like, yeah, everyone against them was just stupid. Well, I don't think so. If I was
No,
a bank,
I don't
I would
think
feel
so.
the exact same way.
I don't disagree.
And I don't know that a bank has much to like value an account that never has money in it,
Right.
which is what they were kept
well,
arguing.
they were making money on the interest every time.
Very little though. Like if you have cash coming in and cash going out instantly, which is there was never a cash balance in there, then there's no money to be made.
Well, he's saying interest on the
no,
loan.
they're making interest on the loan.
I understand, but it was
It was
the
probably
complaint
between
that they
3
had.
and 8% that they were making on that money all the time.
Okay, but like just again putting yourself in the shoes of like an unstable company. Every company you've seen before fails
don't
at this. You
disagree.
don't take a chance
And
on
they're
Nike.
risking their money.
Their money.
Because if he
I
goes
don't disagree
bankrupt,
with
they're
either
not going to
side.
get it.
for sure.
I don't
Yeah.
disagree with either side. Yeah, I didn't know if that changed. And other question around that same period of time, did they just randomly switch narrators in the 1965 chapter? Is it just me?
I don't know.
You guys
I
didn't
don't know.
realize?
I did notice like a sound
noticed?
change. It sounded like he had a cold and then he got better.
It's like, what are
Yeah.
they doing? Now, what is the relationship? So there's the Bank of California, and is it Nisho?
Nisha?
Ni-
Nisho?
Nisho.
I think it's pronounced Nike.
What is the difference there in the book? So we've got the bank that he's basically operating, paying his bills through, and then there's Nisho. Is it a Japanese in what is
like an
essentially
investment
an
banker?
investor.
Yes. Okay.
They're essentially they were. I think what they essentially called themselves was like a commodities broker.
Yes.
Yeah.
So essentially, all they're doing is they're putting up cash to fund these orders for shoes, and what Nike gets then is
Blue Ribbon.
30 or 60. Blue Ribbon, which is Nike.
Yep.
What Blue Ribbon then gets is somewhere between 30 and 90 days probably to pay back that loan.
Got it.
So they get to get the product in, sell the shoes, pay it back.
Got it.
But they were constantly having to do this over and
Yes.
over and over again. The bank doesn't have an appetite for it, whereas a $100 million company
That's
is
what
like,
they do.
oh, well, let's do this.
Got it.
So they're essentially funding the purchase orders.
It really felt like Phil was limiting himself to just his little group, and for him, like it was almost like if he spent like a single week just going out and finding another bank, he would have had all these stressors from the bank that he had chose. Like I find myself doing
I don't
that
think they
too.
had other
I know they
banks,
didn't have
though.
options in that, but like
Yeah.
he didn't necessarily need to have a bank within 5 minutes of himself. He could have gone a little bit further.
Well, I think some of the
Well,
laws.
there were a lot of the laws didn't allow
let him
them
do
to
that.
do. There wasn't a lot of options in Oregon, and then a lot of the laws limited them to one
Yeah.
state essentially.
But it
then
wasn't very pro-business from those perspectives.
But that's why the
Yeah.
California bank all of a sudden popping up was a godsend for him.
But at this
essentially.
same time, Apple's growing, Microsoft is growing.
How could-
all
not to
these
jump
startups-
too far
all these
ahead.
Startups are all happening.
Yeah.
And I think that changed a lot of this landscape. So you think about it, if these Japanese brokers are getting in on this stuff early, well, people in America are going to see that and they're going to start doing that. And
Yeah.
then boom, you've got all sorts of different investment groups.
well, with all of
And they're going to charge a higher interest rate.
were there a lot of companies in America already doing their manufacturing in Japan?
No.
So Phil really was a stalwart in this.
So Sony was what he modeled it after.
Got it.
Right? Is he saw, oh man, look how big they're getting selling all of these electronics that are made over in Japan.
He was playing PlayStation in
and he
1972.
said, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And he said,
What was in 72? An Atari?
well, it wouldn't have been a video game. Like Sony did headphones, Sony did everything.
You know, Kawasaki makes motorcycles and pianos. You can get either one.
Yeah. Anyway,
Did you know Apple makes computers and fruit?
that's what his master's thing was about.
It's already been
That was
out
his
of
big
the-
idea, his crazy idea.
You get a discount because
Yeah,
they bite
it's
it out.
cheaper
Yeah,
that way.
it's cheaper.
Can we get another round of Mai Tais?
Just bite the other side. It's like
Maybe if I
every
give you-
apple.
if I give you the,
I've been
It's like-
distracted ever since you said Apple because
It's like every apple my kids eat. It's like one
oh
bite.
my gosh, you can share an apple. I started a rule where if you take an apple, I have to cut it. That's how ridiculous
Do you guys
apples
do
are.
you guys do
and
dead?
by the way, apples are as expensive as eggs
they're
these
so
days.
expensive.
Do you guys do dad tax?
All fruit, man.
A dead tax
dad tax.
where you eat
Anytime
it?
my kids eat, I have
Depends
dad
what
tax.
they're eating.
Dude, Nutella to goes. I will crush one.
Those are pretty good.
They're amazing.
Nutella
They're
to-goes.
so good.
Listen, Apple and Nike went public the same
Yeah.
week. of the same year. That's just wild.
And I love that he was like, no, they got whatever it
22.
was, 22.
I wish I knew more about how that all worked.
Oh my gosh.
Like when he was talking about public offerings and how much a share is worth and all that, I was like,
The company that's helping him go public, what's at risk for them? That's what I want to know. Like, why
dude,
are
you're
they
asking
so?
the wrong person. I lost $100,000 in crypto in 24 hours. we were talking about this. We were talking about this. So my buddy found this oil stock. This is actually my partner that's in the restaurant. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why it's ironic that we
3 Hoosier friends. We relate to everyone.
we bought this restaurant. So we found this oil. We were really big in just finding like oil stocks and like these random stocks, these penny stocks. Well, Sleep finds this oil stock and essentially within 24 hours makes it go from like $10 to 70 grand. So we're like, and I got in it too, and I can't remember what I put in it. It wasn't that big, but it was a lot. And we're like, we're taking the rest of the day off. So we go to Bricks, which is where the current Parks place is, and we have lunch and we have some drinks, and we're like celebrating. And we're like, oh, like around 2 or 3, we get back. And we're like, we should probably go back to work. We get back. There was some sort of injunction slapped on it, and we lost everything. All the money we spent at lunch, it was happening while we were partying about how much money we made. So ridiculous. Yeah. So you're asking the wrong guy is basically what I'm getting at.
Well, we'll find out someday.
Maybe you should
the
ask the
podcast.
right guy.
Did you get Jesse Itzler?
Itzler.
Jesse Itzler vibes at all when he basically is like justifying his lying to get him in positions?
Yeah, and I feel like Jesse Itzler is the Rudy Rudiger of speakers.
He may be. He may be. But here's the deal. Maybe I was tougher on than you guys.
Didn't you have him on yours? Or something?
No. I meant like the story behind the speak. Like I'm going to sell you so hard on letting me speak.
We had
a story.
he was a Rulin Connection SLC virtual guest.
Oh, right,
and
right.
He let Cutco down, I think.
He did big time.
But I really like his book, Living with a Seal, because he talks about David Goggins, and it's written really well.
The book is great, but I'm realizing it's because David Goggins is great.
All right, I wrote this down. And I think this is where you're going.
Yep.
Something that really made me think. The balls that it takes to live fire ready aim.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could have flamed out so many times, which is why I just put he refused to lose. But it wasn't this like leader rally the troops at all times. It was just like I just kept showing up because I didn't have any other.
I'm gonna do it. Do you want to do it too?
Yeah, he did have other options.
What? No, but that's how it felt. It felt like he was just like, I'm just gonna keep showing up, and this stuff better work out.
Well,
he wrote the book in a very humble way.
Are you talking about him lying, like when he's in Japan and he makes up the name of a company or what?
Yeah, there were many times.
No, when he gets back home,
because most of the time I actually came away thinking like I thought that it was really interesting how truthful he is.
Yeah, humble.
That too.
He's very humble. Like basically, he writes more about like the scary times and the fact that they just decided to stick it out. And he does not. They don't celebrate the successes the way that most people gloat about successes in their memoirs.
Which is why you got a Pursuit of Happiness feel,
right?
Is because
that's okay.
It was a grind.
It was.
It was a funny grind.
Like,
it was a fun grind. You can tell that he.
So like, I'll give you for instance
it.
though. I'll give you for instance because like here they're talking about the loans. So like at this point in the book, they're talking about now $1 million is going in and out of the bank account instead of like $10.
Yeah,
like just astronomical dollars.
But they still have no money in the bank account.
But they still have no money. But you can, if you go back and do the math and look at the time period, he was very rich at the time that he was talking. But nothing about the book suggests that they were upgrading their lifestyle, living life at higher whatever. Because
they were going to lots of Portland Trailblazer games.
But like that's it.
That
like,
probably wasn't very expensive either.
No, I mean it was the ABA. I mean it wasn't like
he went to one of the games right after one of his sons was born. Actually,
yeah.
By the way, total Marcus move. Total.
I golfed.
Buy your dad a cigar.
I golfed while Jessica was in the hospital with Reed.
Oh man, we've all got a good firstborn story. You guys remember my big thing? So my firstborn, she goes, I think it's time, and I go, okay, I'll be right back, and I go upstairs and I chug a bottle of Pepto-Bismol. Yeah. and then I'm like throwing everything in the car, and
You throw up pink.
So I'm throwing all the to-go bag in the car, and she's like, I think I'm okay. Like, you don't have to like fly anything. Like, I'm like, okay. So then I go through the Jimmy John's line because I know it's gonna be a long time.
That's right. You did.
Riley was like, hey, go ahead, get up. You don't have to freak out. We got to go. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I get my stuff. I go down. I start making a pot of coffee. She's like, I didn't mean we got like a lot of time.
It's go time.
We gotta go.
with number three, Quinn. I wake up. She was like 11 days late. So all the other kids, I guess just two other kids were with my parents, and it was the weekend, so I'm just sleeping, right? And I wake up, no alarm or anything. I look into the bathroom, and she's in there doing her makeup.
At what time?
Huh? It's like, I don't know, 7:30 or 8 o'clock or whatever in the morning. I look up, and she's just in there like doing her makeup. And I go, is it go time? She's like, yeah, my water broke like an hour ago. And I go,
the difference between 1 and 3.
I go, okay. And then we just got up and took our time and
that's a pro.
Made our way there.
Pro mama bear.
Mm-hmm.
All right. He's fighting with
It was
Onizuka.
almost exactly 9 years ago.
Eventually, when's Quinn's birthday? Coming up?
The 30th. It's in like 4 weeks.
So eventually, that was so Phil Knight of you. Eventually, Onizuka is like screwing him over. They're trying to buy him out, trying to find other people to sell.
Giving distribution to other people.
Why?
Well, they were going to.
Did you find yourself going, why don't you just find somebody new? Like, why don't you just get ahead of it? What was I missing there?
Yes, I found myself saying that, but I also... He's a
Easier
smart
said
guy.
than done.
Yes, exactly. He's a smart guy, and he knows a lot more than I do, so there had to be a reason. And the reason that I figured is, at the time, like, no one was distributing shoes this way. They had retail stores. They didn't trust, solopreneurs or whatever. And so he didn't have the upper hand. In fact, starting his business, he had to wait 6 months to a year for the first shipment of 10 pairs. So, like, you come so far, like, fighting and trying to get the product that you just don't see. You just don't see another option, and you're also sold. You're sold on Onizuka. You're like, hey, I'm sold on this brand taking over Adidas. I'm the Tiger guy. His identity's wrapped up in Tigers. Well, you've got the deal with Tiger.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, in a
He's
lot
the
of ways,
reason, by the way. Phil Knight is the reason it's normal to wear running shoes as just everyday shoes. Before that, no one had done that. And he normalized that through
Bowerman with
Onizuka.
the waffle shoe.
Yeah, the waffle trainers, which, by the way, did you guys look those up? They don't look, I don't know why they're called the waffle. Like, they don't look.
On the sole.
Is it the sole?
I know, but it didn't look, I don't know.
Well, I mean.
The air soles.
Well, it might have
I think,
completely
like, pretty much
changed the way soles looked at all. So maybe we just kind of look past it. What that brings up a good point. So he's kind of playing Onizuka. They're playing him. He's also looking for other factories to make other stuff and whatever. This is brought up we brought this up with Rupert, with Game. When can you lie? When can't you? Where's the line in business? At what point are you just allowing yourself to get taken advantage of, but you're blurring some lines? You're playing ball, but you're also jeopardizing your integrity. Like, I feel like there was a lot of gray area in like Blue Ribbon's come up.
It's really tough because when they're not playing by the rules.
Can we just take, if you haven't read the book, Blue Ribbon is the company that was started that ended up becoming Nike.
Yes.
Correct. It was sole distributor of Onizuka's Tiger shoes.
Yeah.
Was Blue Ribbon.
Specifically the running shoes.
And then they started...
Not wrestling shoes.
They started Nike
running
as
shoes.
a second brand, essentially, or as...
That didn't sell running shoes.
Because that was with their contract, running shoes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, Rem, yes. This gray area is like... I found myself really... There's a lot of tension there.
It's tough because if you are about to get screwed over by this company because they're not playing by the rules... it's tough. I'm not saying break the rules and like, but it's tough because his life would have been over if he didn't take certain precautionary steps to insulate himself before. And so some of it could be perceived as like not being honest. But if you're dealing with someone who's trying to stab you in the back, I don't know how you don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he finds, now it is interesting the way he found out that he was being stabbed in the back is when
He stole stuff out of the
the Japanese
briefcase.
guy goes to the bathroom. He stole a manila folder out of the briefcase to know that he was meeting with a bunch of other distributors. So that act right there was a little dishonest. But had he not done that, he wouldn't have found out that he was about to lose his company.
I struggle with those decisions so much. I do.
What would be a good example though of like that in modern day, like smaller, you know what I mean? Like
hacking into someone's email. That would be the same thing. And you would never be like
out of the briefcase.
Yeah, you would never be like that's acceptable.
what would? Well, no, that's not true. I mean,
you would say
I have done it. Like that sounds bad. I do it all the time. I just did it when on the way. No, I didn't hack into their email.
this is a company server email. That's different.
Yeah.
That's different.
So
that's not hacking.
seriously
Like,
though,
I own the email.
Yeah.
So really though, like if you have proof that, like if you've been told that your spouse is cheating on you, and you're just like, okay, I got to figure this out. Is it ethical to look at your spouse's email to see if there's...
That's a tough one for me because we share each other. Like, it's not... I never think it's unethical to not look at anything that's being written.
I don't necessarily either. However, I'm just saying, like he described this as like a marriage,
right.
and like he was breaking up with one and then getting in with the other one, and I'm just, he knew that person that I can't remember the guy's name. He knew that guy had meetings lined up with other distributors.
He knew that because he stole the manila folder.
No, he knew it because somebody called him and said, "Hey,
his spy.
one of the other distributors called him and said,
right.
"Hey, they called me. What's up with this?" And so he's wondering how many of these people is he talking to? Is he actually doing it? He's trying to confirm without just asking.
I think my own conscience, to answer your question, Brett, my own conscience would not have allowed me to do the manila folder. I would have just called it out straight, and I would have
said, "Hey,
that's what I would have
I would have called it out straight." And you know what? It probably would have been worse than the way he handled it, though. I probably would have lost it, and it would have been way more. It would have been worse for me.
It would have been worse.
But conscious wise, like
it's probably too easy for me to say because I wasn't in the situation.
Right.
I haven't been in that situation.
Hey, he quotes Douglas MacArthur many times, and he says, "You were remembered for the rules you break."
That's a little different.
That's
not what he's saying with that quote.
I think
he's talking. That quote is referring to the fact that no one wore shoes as dailies, and he breaks that rule and starts selling them as dailies. That's what that quote means.
Hey, take it for what you want.
It's not an ethical
I am interested
quote.
to see if I found out.
At least for him.
I was the sole distributor of Cutco. I was the only distributor of Cutco, and I found out they were meeting with other people behind my back. You
needed some sort of proof.
And I don't know. It's hard to
like if you hire a private investigator to break in and find that stuff. Is that unethical?
This is where the listener is so judgy and judging us, and they're like, "I would do the right thing." No, you wouldn't. We're gonna interview. We're gonna interview on the podcast.
Rem's gonna break into your email and find everything.
I'll find out.
Rem broke into Hillary Clinton's email. He's the one. How about Johnson finding the name Nike in a dream? How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Marcus believes it? Doesn't believe it?
But there was foreshadowing on Nike in the first chapter when he goes
Athena.
to...
That's what the look was for, Brett. Is that, he foreshadows everything on his trip.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the symmetry is beautiful.
Yeah.
But when you're looking back, of course you can see
totally.
all of these things.
It wasn't, I guarantee
it's not like he was... it's not like he was looking at the Temple of Athena and thinking Nike.
No.
But it was convenient.
But none of us are.
But then, like when he says Nike and he's like, "No, man, I really want Dimension 6 Dimension 6 is the name. But then he starts going through all the names of all these brands. He's like, it needs to be 2 syllables.
They're small
The time is
2-syllable
up.
words.
All right, Nike it is. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what a great story.
Yeah. Yeah. Dimension 6. So here's one of the crazy quotes from the beginning of the book.
I
when
wouldn't
he's
want to
doing
wear
all these
Dimension
studies.
6s.
When he's doing all of the traveling at the beginning of the book, he said he went to Italy and he studied the statue of David, and he said he looked at the anger in his eyes, and the quote was, "Goliath never stood a chance."
Mm-hmm.
I loved that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was so quick, it was subtle, like you could have missed it. But he was just talking about, and then I went to Italy and I studied the statue of David.
I
And
thought
he
that
actually
the entire-
as he's reading it, he trails off. It was one of those like thoughts he had in the side of his brain, and I caught it, and I was like, man, that's a cool quote.
I thought that the whole idea of a trip around the world for 1 year, essentially, and he plans this thing all out, right? But this trip around the world before he gets his life started to give him perspective.
It's called a gap year.
Man, that is a really, really neat idea.
So Reed comes to you.
He said he packed a suitcase and a backpack for a year.
So Reed comes to you, and you've got 20 grand that you set aside. I don't know your philosophy on it. We can get into it.
Yeah.
You got 20 grand set aside for his first year, or what you're going to give him when he graduates
Yeah.
in his next step.
Yeah.
And he says, I want to do a gap year before I go to college. Do you give him the 20 grand?
I think so. Yeah. I think I would. I think I would have some parameters around it, and I would want to know.
Prodigal son parameters?
No, not specifically. Just I would want to know the plan. Like I would want to know.
Sure. That's just good
By the
leadership.
way, Phil Knight didn't follow the plan he gave his dad at all.
Yeah,
He
that's
stayed
true.
in Hawaii for how long?
But I will tell you, I
Hey,
think
But
that there's a
you've
lot
been to
of.
Hawaii. That's hard to leave.
I think that there's a lot of growing up though that happens
Yeah.
along that time. This independence. I don't know. I thought it was really neat.
It's way
I
cheaper
think,
than paying for college. I will tell you that right now.
Well,
So that's pretty
I
good.
think that is something that I would be open to.
So they do sell plane tickets where you can, as long as you're flying the same direction. I don't know if it has to be west or whatever, but you can pay one time, and as long as you
Yeah.
keep flying that direction,
Yeah.
you can keep going, and you're paid for it.
Yeah.
What?
I had a buddy, Travis. They did it for a year. You go as far east as you can, whatever, Australia,
Until you get home.
and you just keep going until you get back home, and your plane ticket is paid for as long as you keep going that direction. Yeah.
What? There's got to be more to that story.
Look it up, Nate.
I'm just gonna. Does one of the two of you want to do Amazing Race?
Oh
with
my
me?
gosh.
Riley will do Amazing Race with you.
Yeah.
She's locked in.
Me
She
and
loves
Riley
it.
traveling the globe, sharing a hotel room.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would last all of 2 minutes.
I just realized Riley's gonna be like, you just offered me up. What is this? Planned marriages?
Who would win in Survivor between the three of us?
Me.
I knew you'd say that. That's just ego. Who would really win
No,
in Survivor?
Marcus would go in going, I'm not going to talk about blank. I'm not, and then all of a sudden, episode 1.
Episode 1,
He would
they started an
not be able to
argument
hold back.
about theology.
So he'd get
I
he'd get
promise.
voted off. He'd get voted. Nope. You'd get voted off
Piss
immediately.
off everybody.
You'd get voted off. Rem's competitiveness would get the best of him, and if he wins, he's good. If not, you're probably going home. You'd be seen as a threat.
Wait. You mean like in a challenge?
Yeah, you're
I would
competitiveness.
lose and I would get too
the
mad.
problem-
Or you would be
If
seen
you
as a
win too
threat.
many challenges,
then you're gonna.
Oh,
be
so
targeted.
you have to
You're in
almost
trouble.
lose some of them, is what
You
you're
can't
saying, and
keep
I
winning.
can't lose.
You can't. I'd be good. I'd be fun, and I'd be everybody's.
Yeah, but
friend.
you don't know how to start a fire or anything.
I could learn.
you don't have to know how to start a fire.
You have to do
That is not
something.
important.
No, not until the end.
No, not-
unless
that's not
there's
important.
unless there's a fire challenge. At the
important.
end.
You what would you bring
Here's what I
value-wise
do
to the
believe.
group?
Here's what I do believe
Glue
is
guy.
that I could be first or last, and it would be nowhere in between. like I would get voted off first,
Yeah.
or I would make it to the final 3. It's one of the two. That's what I think.
Yeah, you'd be last.
I do think there is a strong. I would be terrified of being voted off first.
I've never watched Big Brother.
Me neither. I've never
But
watched Big
I
Brother.
stopped watching it.
It was like Survivor without the like being outdoors, right?
Yes.
Like,
that's
there's
a good
challenges
comparison.
and, like, you have to-
It's way more social. It's a way more social aspect game.
I've enjoyed the show on Peacock called Traders. It's
Mhm.
it's such trash, but I can't stop watching it.
Is it like Storage Wars?
No,
Or
it's
Pawn Shop?
No, it's another one of these shows where but instead of, so what they do is they assign people to be either faithful or traitors.
Oh.
And they assign like 2 traitors, but you don't know who they are. And every night the traitors kill
It's like
someone.
Secret Hitler.
It is kind of like Secret Hitler.
It's called a stopover plane ticket, Remington.
A stopover plane ticket.
Yep, an intentional break in
So
your journey.
you buy the end destination and just stop everywhere on the way?
Yep.
How much are those tickets on average?
Well, it's one
Dude.
Google search away.
The thing is, you probably couldn't do first
Okay.
class every time, I'm guessing.
So
See if you could do a first class stopover ticket.
So here's something that was interesting to me that as we to get us back.
By the way, do you realize what Rem just asked?
I do.
Just want to make sure.
To
I just asked
not paying for Reed to have a first class. Just so we're clear, I don't care how much money I have. He's not getting a first class stopover.
I just
ticket.
asked-
Who, Reed?
Yeah,
I just asked Amy
because Reed is my most
Do
likely.
you guys
to
know
do
how
this.
I used to originally fly first class?
Yes, you'd wait to board last.
I would wait to board last and I'd walk right on and I'd sit first class because they it must not have been American because they're on it with their like upgrades or whatever, or it might have just been before they started this. I flew first class on such cheap tickets everywhere I went as a teenager.
Really
and
smart.
20s.
Really
Yeah.
smart.
I just asked.
Catch Me If You Can.
Amy,
Have we done Catch Me If You Can?
No, but we need to.
That's a good one.
Amy Knuth, you guys would know her by Amy Lee. She just asked me about a flight to Hilton Head. I'm like, dude, if it's direct, I'll fly Spirit. I'm down. I got it.
Just give me the big chair,
Give me the
baby.
big chair. Give me the big chair. I'll pre-charge my laptop. We're good. Pre-charge.
I've been doing that. I inserted my buddy Kevin's joke into my keynotes, and it slays about Spirit.
Yeah.
Remember that joke?
Oh
That's
yeah.
a funny one.
Man, what episode was
you're
that on?
so you're stealing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I told him to. So it's
asking
okay if you tell him.
Remington-
It's okay.
Asking Remington the Gray question is
Yeah.
little
breaks into
goofy.
emails, stealing jokes. Good.
Yeah.
It was
okay.
my email. I owned it.
Relationships and family. Let's talk about this because he does spend a fair amount of time on Penny /
This
Penelope.
podcast is gonna end up in a court case. He said it. He said it. He said it right there.
It'll be like the letters. It'll be like the
I'll
letters.
take the stand. I'll be like, honestly, didn't think anyone was listening to the podcast.
It'll be like the letters. that
I'm
Phil
just
Knight
tickled
wrote.
that everyone in here has now heard the show.
Email us.
There's
at
not
the cover
one German in here. I'm shocked that you guys all know what the cover is. Let's do German month. Is Pride month? Let's just call June German month. German month. We'll do Inglourious Bastards, but not really.
Have you heard? Who's the guy that does all of Sandler's movies?
Adam Sandler.
Not Adam Sandler. Another one.
Buscemi.
Buscemi. No.
Yeah,
no.
Mr. White or Mr. Pink.
Gosh dang it. I don't think it's Buscemi. So it must not be a Sandler guy. He has an amazing Veterans Day Pride Month joke that is
Oh, he's a comedian.
amazing. It's so good.
Cool, man. That's really funny.
It's great.
That's like that. That's like Dwight and. You just told a Dwight and Angela joke. They're at dinner, and
Do you know how
good.
funny
and
Dwight is?
Dwight goes to Angela. I heard a joke at work today. Angela goes, "That's funny," and he goes, "It really was." And that's the end of it. That's what Brett just did to us.
It's because he didn't want to get canceled.
Oh, he knows the joke.
I know.
Yeah,
the
he
joke.
knows the joke for sure.
I can't think of his name.
Okay, relationships and family. I've harped on some of these guys or gals on specifically the business ones. I've said, hey, like we really liked Sam Walton. We really liked his commitment to family, right? But there were a couple of other. I would say that Green Lights with Matthew McConaughey, his commitment to family was really good. But
You're talking about Sonny Boy was just completely
Sonny
lost.
Boy was just
Girl
all over
was
the
a
place.
little
Phil Knight,
actually, Girl was good. Girl
Phil-
flew all the way home.
she
for-
was Phil Grohl was okay. Phil Knight, though, not Phil Knight.
Phil Jackson.
Phil Jackson
Completely missed it.
was awful. Sonny Boy, I was not a fan.
He wasn't a fan.
This one though, I'm just curious. Like his family clearly meant a lot to him, but he also sacrificed them, like on the altar of this company.
Yeah, there's a quote
on purpose.
There's a quote 3/4 in that I know what you're talking about, where he goes, "Daddy's got to go to work, And Matthew said, I'm never going to wear Nikes because I'm just mad that you chose Nike over me.
Yeah.
And I see both sides to what Phil's response was to that.
Yeah.
That being said, it just sucks that you can't bring them along with you. I think so many that's one of the coolest things.
His son's never
going
to know all the stress that he went through to build that thing.
Right. But I also don't think he wanted an entrepreneur. He wanted a dad.
Right.
And so I feel like our group does a really good job of this, where if we have to be doing the thing, we're just bringing our kid and they're going to see it and they're going to be a part of it. Like, I have to golf on Friday mornings.
Yeah, exactly.
So I bring a kid.
Yeah.
I think
this 95 handicap is not gonna.
Every high performer we learn about, it's a rough family life. It just is. It feels like, I found myself going. What's the saying? You missed the forest for the trees.
Sounds like he had a good relationship with his second. He's like, his quote was, no matter what I did, the first one was always going to hate me, and no matter what I did, the second one was always going to love me. Basically, like, they always had predetermined.
I treated them the same, and
it did sound like him and Penny had a pretty great relationship.
Seems like
she was all in.
Yeah, they go to movies.
She was
together.
all in from the beginning.
Like, just little nuances at the end of the book where he's like, we were watching Shrek 2 in the movies together. Like, that's a we've been married a long time and we do everything together kind of quote.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
She was at the Olympics just crushing T-shirts, getting them to every single person.
She was all in.
She was all in, yeah.
No doubt about that.
Go Penny.
Her mom was not so much all in at first.
Dottie.
Dottie.
Or Dot. Was it Dot?
Dot, which reminds me of the abbreviations.
I just saw that this morning.
It's such a good bit.
Dottie. You minx.
I
you
thought
fucks and minx.
I thought it was actually hilarious when his moment with Dot also had to do with alcohol, because they go out to the bars and Penny stops drinking after 2, and she's like, let's leave this wet blanket, and let's go. And he's like, I was in.
Penny was uncomfortable.
No, he was saying he was part of her crew.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she was crazy. She was perpetually a teenager, he says.
Oh, yeah.
But like, he was in at that point in time with her, because she was saying, hey, why don't we go hang out and leave her because she's being lame. She's not continuing to drink. It was interesting.
I thought, while he's talking about, I think they're at 1.3 million at this point when he's talking about all the things going wrong. They're bursting at the seams with the company. Made me feel, there's so many points in this book where I felt so much better about my own business than when so many things going wrong constantly. And like, the fact that he held this thing together was amazing to me.
Can you say that again?
Can you describe for the group what's happening right now?
Oh, I just had Marcus want to grab me a Modelo.
Oh man,
and
that
one for
drink
himself.
was so good. It was so awesome.
No, the Mai Tais?
Nasty.
You nasty. You don't drink after people?
No.
You're always making fun of me for being a germaphobe, and you just called him a
Drinking
nast.
after people? If he had half a cheeseburger left, I might eat it. A drink is
Depends
different.
on where it's from.
I don't know.
Where's your burger?
Five Guys.
Five Guys for sure.
Yes.
I don't know why we wouldn't even have a conversation about it.
No, I said he describes all the things going wrong and it's bursting at the seams. They're doing 1.3 million a year, and it's like,
do you like Portillo's burger?
Never had one. I always get the
Italian beef.
Yeah.
So stop getting the beef there. Go get it at Park's Place.
Very solid. Very good.
They have a really good chili dog.
Loaded chili cheese dog. Get it with all the onions and the chili and the cheese.
At Portillo's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Riley really likes their burger.
Have you had Skyline chili?
I hate even looking at it.
First time we took you to Skyline Chili. This is back when I ate everything.
Dude, him and his dad not only had chili, cheese, chili, everything with cheese already on it. They got sides of cheese. Sides of shredded cheese to add to the chilies.
It's a
chili
mountain of cheese. Brett orders just like, what'd you get, like chili or something?
I don't know.
I get 3 or 4 loaded chili cheese dogs and the cheese is already a mile high. We got extra cheese to put on it. He could not believe it. He thought it was a joke.
I will tell you, Coney Island chili dogs, amazing. in Fort
Coney.
Wayne. Very
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Very, very good.
I've had those.
In
Those are
Coney
good.
Island?
Did you get a haircut today?
Yes, it is.
I got a haircut today.
Nice.
Oh!
Did you get
Three
a
for
haircut?
three, baby!
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, haircut boys.
I went to 459. Where'd you go?
Heck yeah, bro. I did not go to 459.
Where'd you go?
Sport Clips.
Supercuts. Oh, I knew.
I went to Macho's.
Dude,
Like
I
a
will not
macho
lie.
man.
Does 459 take you in the back room and put a hot towel on your face and then...
Yep, but I didn't
It
think you
doesn't
were
have
going
to be in a back
I
room.
didn't think you were going to say
They can just do it right there in front of everybody. I'm not sure what haircut place
No,
you-
man, I just love getting my hair washed.
Yep.
It's awesome.
You do that at Supercuts? But
No,
then you
Sport Clips.
at
I
Sport
will tell
Clips?
you, there
then
was
you
this-
pray that it comes out all right?
There was
No, I just use the same chick every time.
no. He just after the 12-year-old gets done, he hops in the chair. And it's his turn. Can you change it
What's
from
the
Nick?
difference? It's
Marcus,
the
you
same-
have two territories now.
same
You can
chick.
afford 459.
Can you?
I don't really care.
Hey,
It's probably
hey,
the
can
same
you just-
price.
I
can
thought
you-
Jessica cut your hair.
It's probably the same price. No, I mean, Jessica could cut my hair and it would look just as good as anywhere else. She cuts everybody else in my family's hair. But the problem is that every time we get to with me doing a haircut, it's like it becomes a chore.
because of all the kids.
Yeah, like we're like, oh, well, let's do it later.
Dude, no. During the 11
and then-
o'clock service, just drop all your kids off and go get your haircut. That's great.
So, yeah, maybe.
Have you ever tried
I
to get your
also
kids to
just-
stay in Sunday school for 2 in a row? Just
Ma-
not say
I mean,
anything?
Mark's
We
Kids
do that
do a
like
lot.
all the
Oh,
time.
there you go.
They sit with us in the second service if they have to do too.
That's true.
Yeah. I just do they make a big deal when you ask them to change it from SpongeBob to Sports Center, or they're like, it's good.
Because
Usually
you
it's
go
Pat
to a
McAfee.
baby haircut
They
place.
play Matt McAfee at Sports Clothes.
Yeah.
Pat McAfee does not get his haircut at Sports Clips.
No.
He does get it at 459 though.
Does he really?
He used to. Now he's just
he's-
Do you
everything's
set
private.
They're coming to
appointments
him.
at 4:59?
Yeah. You can walk in,
Because-
but don't, because then you get the person who doesn't have appointments set.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I'm using the same chick every time.
I had the worst experience at 459. Is why I haven't been back in
See,
a minute.
there you go.
I went there for years, but I took a break because we had the best,
We did.
the
Casey.
best hair
Casey was the
stylist.
best. Yeah.
And then she had a kid and yada yada, and it ruined my life.
Why do all these women have to have kids?
I know, just ruined everything.
That's
So now,
ridiculous.
so I go back to 459.
We're having plenty of kids for all of
this
you.
lady
Okay?
who should not have been cutting hair.
Drugs, age. Oh.
And drugs. Have you heard that Mitch Hedberg joke? I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too.
He's great.
So this chick used to and probably still did. And I'm looking at this guy and he goes, he says something. It's the owner, and he says like, "Can you do this?" Like basically something like that. And I caught it, and I'm like, "Oh no, not with my hair." So she gets
Rem,
going.
you're the person that you would usually say something.
Well, just wait.
Oh, okay.
I go, it's just a fade. And I caught on that she was like back, trying to get back in the game, and everything was slow. And the lady on the other side of the mirror kept coming over, like helping her. And they try to do their best to play it off. And I'm watching this haircut unfold, and it's just in a cold sweat. Finally, I go, I think that's good. That's good. No, that's good. This is actually exactly what I wanted. She's like, you don't want to do the top? I'm like, no, I did not want to do the top. So I get done, and I take the owner aside, and I ream him. I'm like, why would you put me in this position?
Mm-hmm.
This is so awkward now.
Yeah.
Because she did a terrible job and knows it, and she should not be cutting hair. And now I have to get this fixed.
So that did happen to me, like, I don't know, 4 months ago or something. Is that the lady that I typically do? She's the manager. She's very good. She's fantastic.
Mm.
And I got there, and it was gonna be forever. It just the way that it lined up, even though I had scheduled it and got there. And so I went with this other chick, and she literally, you know how they always start down here on the bottom and they work their way up?
For a fade?
She started on the top. And I was like, this is so bad.
This is not good.
And I'm just watching it happen. I'm like, this might be the worst haircut I've ever had.
Dude,
in my life.
if the
When was
person-
this?
3 or 4 months ago.
Okay, so,
And-
so not today.
No. Oh, thanks. And then I she's like, okay, is everything good? I just go, yep.
Exactly.
And I got up.
Exactly, because I'm not going to make her feel bad.
I got up.
She's
because
not.
there's other people there. You know,
Totally. It's not her fault she sucks. She shouldn't have got the job.
I get up. I go home. I go straight in, and I go, Jessica, I've got a meeting in 2 hours. You have to fix this now.
Oh, man.
So, and I said, take pictures. So Jessica takes pictures.
Oh, we have these pictures? We're posting them. Nate, you got to get these
Jessica
pictures.
takes maybe, I don't know.
We got to make
she
meme.
takes pictures. She fixes my hair, and then a day or so later, I go in there and I go to the manager. I'm like, hey, like, I didn't want to be rude. I felt like I was
you
in
took
a
pictures
weird,
to take them back
I was in a
in.
weird spot, but like, you need to see how bad this was. And she was like, well, who fixed it? And I was like, my wife. And she looks at it and she's like, wow, I can't believe she fixed it that well. And they
That's exactly
and
how
they did me right. They did me right.
That's exactly how
They
I
did
would
me
have handled it if that's what it was.
Yeah.
And he did give me a free cleanup, in which
Yeah.
case I still had to tip her because now I'm taking money away from her.
Yeah.
My issue and the reason I was so upset with him is I watched him know she could not do this haircut and put her in that position.
That's
I
bad.
watched it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, don't do
if
that
it's
with
not,
my
if
hair.
it's not my person, I'm out. I'm just like, I'm good. I'm not. It's not happening. And in between, so we had Casey, and then I had this girl Kat.
Yeah, she would have been
And
fine.
then Kat was out, so I had like a 2-month period where I was finding a new person. Dude,
I've been happy with machos.
My hard part ended up in the middle of my head.
I knew you had
I
It
remember that.
slowly kept creeping
I
over.
kept
You did that on
moving.
purpose.
No,
It's
dude.
like your calyx changed, bro.
I didn't realize it, and then one day I'm like, "What's happening?"
It's like Pee Wee Herman.
All right, we got to get to a couple more things here. We have to.
What episode is this?
The stress level. The stress level when he can't pay his bills, can't pay his employees. They know that their cash flow is good 6 months out, but he thinks the game is up. They've been living on the float.
Mm-hmm.
He finds out that his guy from Nisho hasn't been charging them when he was supposed to. So everything he's been paying has been late anyway.
Yep.
The bank is like, nope,
Yep.
we're done. And then even the people that were paying him were also living on the float.
Yep.
And so that money doesn't work. And then he's got, while he's got these people coming in and looking at his books, he's got 2 people that he owes money
Yep.
showing up at his place. Can you imagine that
Yes.
stress level?
Yes, I can, because I've been
I
there.
mean, that is,
It's insane.
I mean, I've been in some really rough places that, like, as an entrepreneur before, where, like, there was one time when I had an employee that hadn't cashed a couple of checks in a row, and then while I was like gone, cashed 2 checks and just drained my business bank
yeah.
account, or however many checks, and drained the account. And I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
I am screwed.
Yeah.
And I've been in moments where I was really, really close like that, but I mean, he had to think like the game is up.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And if that Nisho company didn't come in and just say, you know what? And it was such a really cool story.
The stories of entrepreneurship is so cool. Like my grandfather was the entrepreneur that started in pharmacy. He went to pharmaceutical school at Butler, but then he started his own drugstore, and they sold tobacco and medical supplies in the same store. Just so funny to me. But then he got into kitchens, and he tells this story of how he was in debt. And he just took care of everybody so much so that at the end of that year, they said, Dick, banks can forgive so much amount of debt, and they chose to forgive his debt.
Yeah.
And a year later, he started doing better. And like within a couple of years, he goes back to the bank and he says, put all the debt back on. I'm going to pay it back. Mm-hmm. I'm just getting chills telling that story. Like there's like, they tell us stories like this in the family. It's just like these stories of integrity and like these just like moments where like they're defining. And I feel like entrepreneurship skips generations because you've got an entrepreneur dad who then teaches this, and it's not always, but the risk tolerance is different.
Yeah, not always.
So you get people who come in on the second level that grow the business or are managers or don't want anything to do with it. And so as like the grandchild, like I'm on the other side of that where I'm like the risk tolerance guy again. It's just interesting to see those cycles.
Yeah, I mean, but there's so many points for him where like the Waddells give him $5,000, and that saves him. And then, at this point, Nisho says to the bank, "Oh, we're gonna pay it in full." And then Nisho says, "I can't believe you would treat him this way.
Yeah.
Aren't you in negotiations with us right now? Well, guess what? You don't need to waste your time."
Wow.
And
I remember that.
and
Phil's dying.
I think that, like, can you imagine that moment? Because he has been working, and he's been making Nisho a ton of money. He's been making the bank a ton of money. He's been making all these people money. He doesn't have a ton to show for it right now. Like, he's got a cool company that's doing, I think at that time they were doing what, like $100 million or something in sales. Maybe no, it was less than that.
It was way before that. Yeah.
It was less than that because it was $1 million payment.
Yeah.
That was due to Nisho that, like, kicked it all off. So he was probably doing like 15 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Math.
Yeah. He was probably on track to do something like that in that 12 months. And man, to have somebody just come in and say, "Yeah, we got you," and I'm sure that he had to pay it back with interest or whatever, but I mean, wow.
He admits to
What a
luck
story.
being part of the equation. He
Luck,
admits-
yes, but he had, like, people had to have seen, like, even the guy from Nisho, Ito, that got in trouble because he wasn't charging
Yep.
him enough or on time. Like, he was like, "Well, this is my company, man. Like, he's my business baby. Like, I go to Portland I shake hands with Prefontaine. I go to Portland games with you. I do these things. Like, this is going to be a big company."
Yep.
And he believed in it so much that he was literally putting his self and his job at stake and his company that he's working for at stake. And there were so many times along this journey where it was something like that, where it was like Johnson or Hayes or any of these guys, where it was almost like they couldn't screw up.
You're talking
enough.
about, like, the bank treating him poorly, but, like, we've kind of grazed over.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying they did, but I'm saying that that's what, like,
Well, I was going to say the Japanese side, like the Japanese guys really treated him poorly. Like, they took care of him, kind of, but, like, their communication was bad. They would be late on
Onitsuka.
Yep,
Yeah.
Onitsuka, like, from the very get go, like 1966.
yeah.
He takes his third trip to Japan, outlining exactly like he did the first two times. So he goes to Japan, gets that first initial deal after a year of waiting on 10 shoes to show up. Now he's got the deal a little bit, decides to go back to Japan again because he's like, "Hey, I can do this. Like, send me more shoes and make me bigger." Okay. And, like, those negotiations. Third time he goes, he's looking for a seat at the table. He's like, "Guys, I've proved it now, and I shouldn't have to come back to Japan to ask for a returned letter," which is interesting dynamic because he doesn't return Johnson's letters. So it's like the pain of dealing with the Japanese and going, like, to make their company great makes me wonder, and he never really addresses this, but it makes you wonder if he ever wishes he would have just started his own company from the very
But
get-go.
that's the thing is, though, he wouldn't have been able to be as successful from the beginning because the whole point was that his shoes were cheaper than Adidas and Puma and everything else. The reason that he was able to sell so many at the beginning was in large part because they were so much cheaper. And he was the only one willing to deal with that pain of figuring out that Japanese market.
Reminds me of Outliers. Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Outliers, talks about, like, you can see signs of people, like, there could have been a Phil Knight on, in the East Coast or in Indiana.
Well, it could have been that wrestling coach.
Yeah.
Like, he was selling them first.
Could have been that. Could have been the
Marlboro
guy.
Man. Could have
Yeah,
been
the Marlboro
could have been
Man.
him. We
Yeah.
could have been reading his story. But I think the one thing that I always go back to is that fighter mentality, that entrepreneur, that I'm not going to quit. Like, Phil Knight might have gone down for being, like, the biggest jeweler that we've ever heard of. Like, I just think we would have I believe we would have read a book about Phil Knight regardless if it was Nike or not.
That's why I said refuse to lose in my 9 words. Is he says at the very beginning, page 3, right? Like, I wanted to win, and then when he's talking about what he wants in life and what kind of company he wants and what he wants to do, he's like, I wanted to win, and they said no. more accurately, I didn't want to lose. I wanted to make my mark on the world, right? And that idea of like, do you want to win or do you really, really hate losing? And he hates losing. Like, he hates losing.
Mm-hmm.
He's given the Oregon Ducks unlimited NIL.
And they keep losing.
Because he's like, you need to freaking win.
They keep losing.
They keep losing.
So when you asked that integrity thing about it, were you literally just talking about the part where he, goes dark and opens the manila folder?
I think it was over and over and over. I just saw gray area being...
I
Really?
Didn't, I didn't see that.
I didn't see it until the
that at
manila
all.
folder, except for one quote. He was talking about the Olympics in Mexico. And he said Puma and Adidas were doing illegal things to get their shoes, including making them in Guadalajara. And he said when he was talking to Bowerman, he didn't feel morally superior. He was jealous that they figured out how to do it. That was kind of foreshadowing of like,
I wish I would have kept better track, but there were many...
What game are we playing?
I just came away with an opposite impression because, like, if you think about the first time that they went to Chicago and unveiled the Nikes, right? Then they sucked. Like they looked like crap. And basically all the reps said was like, yeah,
Telling the truth.
we know that they look like crap, but they will perform, blah, 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 blah. Here you go. And all of these reps for all of these places kept buying their stuff. And they thought, was it the story? Was it the boxes? What was it? And what they said was, oh, well, you guys have always done us right. We trust you guys. You guys are runners. Like there's so many times where people just trusted him that there's just no way he was living in the gray.
with the consumer. No, with the consumer, with those reps, I agree. When it came to business deals behind the scenes, like I don't feel that way at all. With the banks, with the manufacturers, with
what was he doing?
I didn't get
banks?
that. I think the end of the book kind of tainted you because I don't think that was like.
I felt it early.
What did you think? He wasn't lying to the banks. They had his numbers.
Okay, you're catching me without notes, without exactly
well, you throw a
what
claim out there like that.
Well, no, I get it, and you're saying, hey, what specifically?
We'll give you time to read the book and take notes for the podcast.
Okay,
How
great.
about that?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I think there were multiple occasions where he didn't tell a full truth, and I just didn't feel great about it.
Can I do one last made me think?
Sure.
I just love how all of his biggest problems resulted in such creative breakthroughs and innovations. Like that's the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Is like no,
Not just with the product.
I'm gonna find a way around
Innovations
this.
like the orange boxes at the trade shows.
Well, that was huge.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, the idea of
Everyone had white boxes, white or black boxes at the trade shows. And that was just the standard. That was what you made. And he said, make them orange. And if you notice, like Nike still has orange boxes.
100%.
And that started, I didn't know that started at trade shows. That's kind of cool.
I thought that one of the most interesting innovations was the way that he got paid, where he was like, hey, you guys are going to pay me 6 months early, or you're going to pay me for 6 months.
They're called
worth
futures.
Yeah,
Futures.
you're going to pay me for these. And so what he was doing was trying to say, hey, I'm going to have to be the one that foots this bill. No, you're going to have to foot this bill. That's going to give me some version of equity, in the company that I can take to the banks because you've already ordered those shoes. That they laughed at him when he first asked to do that.
Now that's how businesses work.
And that's not how businesses do it. Pretty cool.
Yeah. I at one point I realized that his vulnerability telling the story, his willingness to talk about missteps, his bad form, was probably the reason why I love the book so much. His just willingness to be really, really, really honest about every step of the way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also, so are we still on what did you think? What did you think?
Yeah,
what
we
did
are.
you think?
Yeah.
So he talks about a cold look he took from Matsui in that third. I wrote down a lot of notes from that scene in the third time he flies to Japan. So he was talking about it was Onitsuka is no longer calling the shots, sending the shoes. Matsui's kind of like in charge. He takes a cold look
Well,
from
Onitsuka is the name of the company, right?
Yeah.
That he's the main head guy.
Right.
But the guy
But
below Onitsuka,
But Onitsuka was the one that was
elevates him.
correct.
Yeah.
Onitsuka was the one that was physically writing him letters at the very beginning. He elevates Matsui. He has this he says he's looking around the table and everyone's like shaking, like nodding their head. Yes, we're going to do this. Yes, this is the deal. Yes, we're all good. And then he says he took a cold look from Matsui and he felt uneasy. And it just reminds me, and it was like the foreshadowing of what was to come.
Yep.
And it just reminds me of like Zoom meetings since post-COVID, even just we've been doing Zoom to take over.
You don't get the uneasy feeling.
You don't get the deepened relationship. So is it
I'm with
efficient? Is it efficient? Well, it depends on what you call efficient. Is it quick and easy to make more sales quicker? Is it quick and easy to make more touches on relationships? Yes. Can you get deeper, and do you have those relationships that are like solid?
Yep.
A resounding no.
Yep.
And so you have to find ways of being in, like, if that's the way you're going to do your business, that's fine, but you got to find a way to deepen those relationships, because you're not going to get those feelings that you get just doing Zoom appointments.
Or just deal with higher turnover when it comes to clients.
Right, but who wants that?
Nobody does, but I'm just saying maybe there's that trade-off that somebody decides they want.
Yeah, I think it's got to be an intro or an upkeep, not the main.
I'm with you, man. Like there are times when I'm just sitting across the table from another guy and I'm like, something's off.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, a simple ChatGPT thread will tell you there are 4 major times that Phil Knight operates in the gray area. Number 1, lying to Onitsuka in Japan in 1962. Number 2,
What did he lie about?
He lied about Blue Ribbon.
He
being
lied.
a company.
He said Blue Ribbon was a company. That's not a lie.
That's not a lie.
He created it on the spot.
I don't know why, because they said that. No, seriously, I totally subscribe to
Me
that.
too. I have zero problem with that.
Right now, if we wanted to start a company and we start it, that's the start of the company.
This is how our podcast started.
That is exactly how the podcast
And then you find
started.
out there's another company already called that. Then what do you do?
You change the name. That's what happened with me. This is why I'm arguing this. I started a company named Indie Top Producer. So I did the research. 1 year in, realized I hadn't done enough research on the name, and I had to change the name.
And if you didn't have N2 backing you with all of the lawyers and
They
whatever you
still
needed,
backed me on
Okay,
that.
my point exactly. If it would have been just you, it might have been a different story.
But I still wouldn't be lying about the company. I was one of one. This is what the company is. I don't have anything.
Okay.
I don't have samples.
He did lie about
Listen,
having an East Coast office.
I do
He
know.
also said he had an East Coast office, and he didn't have that either.
That's a lie.
That's later.
That's a lie.
That's a lie.
You're gonna
He
get
did
to gray
straight
areas.
up.
I
He
don't
did-
believe the first one's a gray area. I think he was. I think it was
straight
a
up
humble.
lied about the East Coast
I think it was a humble brag that he said I didn't really have a company. I think that's like a subtle wink to the like, yeah, I'm just starting this from scratch. But I think that's how all entrepreneurs are.
I agree.
Number two, I will say not strong, but
so 2 for 2 there.
his he did ignore import duties and then later had to pay them.
No,
obviously.
that's not true.
I know. That's why I
ChatGPT
said
is wrong.
that's why I said not strong.
Chad. Chad GPT.
Oh, Chad.
He was a distributor for Onitsuka. He did start Nike without him. It was not supposed to be. He did it under the radar.
He didn't sell running shoes through Nike.
So there's some gray area there for sure.
I mean, it's a little gray.
Little
That's
gray.
when it starts to get gray.
The thing that he did that like when he straight up lied about having an East Coast office.
Yeah.
Like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
It was wrong. It also, I think the next call he made was like, "Hey,
We got an East Coast
we
office.
we need to get an
Well, they
office
had
in
East
Boston
Coast customers.
immediately." The other thing that Nate brought up on ChatGPT is says pushing employees to the limits. That's just good business.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're good. We
I
found a
don't know,
couple.
man.
We found a couple.
I don't know.
So that's pretty bad.
I'm
Not
just
that
saying,
I'm here to argue with ChatGPT or anything.
I'm just saying he
Chad.
did lie and found gray area on multiple occasions.
All right, we ready for quotes?
Did happen.
No.
We haven't even talked about LeBron's Rolex yet.
All right. That's hidden gems, though, at the end.
All right. Okay.
let's
I
Do
go.
we
did
want
like.
to talk about the butt face?
I also.
That is great.
I
It's so good.
I have a hidden gem on Lou Olson.
if we're going to talk about something else, we got to talk about the butt face.
let's talk
Yeah,
about
let's
butt face
go to
retreats.
butt face.
Butt faces.
What's butt face?
all the
It's their
leaders of the
annual-
company?
It's their annual leadership
I know.
retreat.
What I'm saying is, like, how do they train? Do you remember how it came about?
Yes, is because I I don't know if I can find the quote. Hold on.
This is the best part of the show.
He basically says, how many multi-million-dollar companies are there in which you can say, "Hey, butt face," and
all
everybody
the
on
upper
senior
management.
leadership turns around.
Yeah. So it was a joke that Johnson told at a retreat, and it just stuck. And it was one of those things where, like, so kind of like this podcast and the German things. We couldn't have gone into the podcast knowing that we would have such a German following.
The Germans would love us.
But now we know that we are primarily German, so now we play it up.
Right.
That butt face thing just comes out of nowhere. It's a joke that someone tells at a retreat that then becomes like the foundational, like,
It's one of the things
humor-based things.
when you try to create it and it's not organic, it goes horribly wrong.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that has to be organic. That
Totally.
just
Like purple
happens.
cobras.
Yes.
The butt face saying, like,
Yes.
we created that culture easily at the age group when we were all in Cutco. We would have been in our young 20s. And when you have your whole life ahead of you, we're not married yet, we're making what we think is a ton of money at the time, that culture just happens.
The Coxie Tuck.
The Coxie Tuck? That was hilarious. I had a kid on my team who was like filming YouTube videos, and he took a break on a one-way mirror tucking his shirt in, and we thought it was hilarious, so we made a whole like thing
Dude,
about
that's
it.
so good. Well, I think about how like the purple cobras came about, and we were just crushing everybody. And I said, "Oh man, guys, like, what if we
Well,
were
Dodgeball had come out that
well,
year
it
as
had
well.
come out
Yeah.
a couple of years before, but I was like, guys, what if we're the purple cobras and our chant is we're better than you and we know it, and we
Mark's chant.
never used that as the chant. But man, purple cobras like lived on for way longer than I expected it
Totally.
to. You know, like I couldn't get rid of it. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I love those times.
My last note is, and you guys, I'm just digging into you now. Phil Knight treating people the way that he did, I got so annoyed at points that he was still so successful.
Are you talking about Johnson? This is what I said at the beginning.
It wasn't just Johnson. He treated many people horribly.
Man,
So-
I did not get that.
I think
Marcus, did you get that?
I understand what you're saying. Yes.
Uh-huh.
I think he actually hits on this.
But he also agreed, like, he's writing the book. Like, that's
So-
part of me that I'm like, I love he's being so vulnerable. Like,
Here's the
it's
point.
his
Here's
memoir.
the point at which I was like, oh, that's what it is. He is on the way to the hospital for his second kid, and he talks many times before this about how absent-minded, and we're gonna say that in quotes, he was. But he's on the way to the hospital for his second kid, and he's thinking about all of these things in his business, and he gets lost.
On his way to the hospital.
On his way to the hospital for his wife who's in labor to have the kid. He gets lost, even though he knows where the hospital is, and like he's that, and we're gonna put it in quotes, absent-minded. And what I think is that he was so singularly focused on the business and those things that he could not, like, he was this he's a visionary leader like we rarely see. And it's tough for those people to relate down below. So it's not that he's treating them poorly, it's just that like he's hearing all these problems from Johnson or whoever.
Totally.
He's like, this is not important.
To bring this whole thing full circle, not to defend him being a jerk to people, but to Marcus's point and to bring it full circle with what we said in the 1966 chapter, which he names all of his chapters after the year. It's just like a 10-year
Which
period.
is so nice.
It's very nice. He talks about with so much at stake, with all the, like you were talking about, he owes money here, they're coming for the money, like nobody's getting done, like the shoes aren't coming, like just 10 different big stressors. He said, with so much at stake, concentrating on one task just cleared your mind. And it was doing something simple and making sure that if there's chaos around you, you pick one thing and you do it until it's done, and then you do the next thing.
And he's elite at that.
And so that's what's happening is, like, unfortunately, and you can see this, and it's rarely true with my grandpa. So my grandpa didn't have great people skills. Like, he would go and try to close his own deals. As soon as his son, Uncle Greg, got in there, he was much better with people. It's like, you got to take these sales because we're losing business. I don't know how to talk to these people, because he's the visionary. He's like focused on, he's like, he doesn't understand how to communicate to someone who doesn't get it. And I think Phil Knight's kind of
It's not that different actually from your Brunson rule. Like, I'm going to focus on 3 things. And if anything else is around me, like that's not it. Like I'm not doing it. And I don't think he has words to describe what that is.
Bronson.
What'd I say?
Bronson.
Oh, sorry.
You got some.
Branson. Sir.
Branson.
Sir
Yeah.
Richard Branson.
sir. Dude, he's a knight with you.
Yeah. He comes to the
Like,
night.
yeah,
the night,
you
the
know
night
this.
meetings.
Yeah. Anyway.
That was good. That was a good bow. I'm ready. We ready for quotes?
Yeah.
Quote time.
All right, page
We
1.
do quotes before Jim's.
Yes, page
All right.
1. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is when he's talking about the people from Oregon and his teacher that says to him, "The cowards never started," he'd tell me, "and the weak died along the way. That leaves us." About the people that went across the frontier to get to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very similar to In Different Stars
In
Above.
Different Stars Above, yeah.
Everything else. It's pretty cool.
This was either him going abroad or buying the shoes. First, I would need my father's approval. Then, I would need his cash. That's it. That's a quote.
Good one.
Reb's having trouble following that one up. He doesn't know if this is worthy.
It's never just business. It will never be. If it ever becomes just business, that will mean that business is very bad.
Yeah, dude, he wanted it to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he wanted it to be like a sport, and he wanted to have fun.
Which is funny because, like, when he's in building phase, he's not very fun. Like, he's so focused.
But
He wants it to be fun.
They also talk about in that ad campaign, how there is no finish line, which is essentially like the journey is the destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same idea. I think that he really embraced that.
I thought this was neat. Taking 1 ounce off a shoe is 55 pounds per mile.
Mm-hmm.
Just finding the little tiny wins in their production.
Wow.
That was neat.
I missed that. There comes a time in every life when the past recedes, the future opens. It's that moment when you turn to face the unknown.
Where the past recedes and the future opens.
Mm-hmm.
So the present.
This was on
That's really good. That's super deep. It's good.
Onisuka's response to his letters about delayed shipments. He said, "It was like dialing 911 and hearing someone yawn."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would say, if I didn't
like
hear anything, it was either good news or bad news, but it wasn't no news.
Yep.
Remember that line in Die Hard when she picks up at the emergency?
Also Japan, Japanese.
Was it?
Oh, I mean, that was a Japanese company, right?
The
In San Francisco.
oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, part of his mind, this is talking about Bowerman, part of his mind was always back in fossil, which is funny because there was something distinctly fossilized about him. Hard, brown, ancient, he possessed a prehistoric strain of maleness, a blend of grit and integrity and calcified stubbornness that was rare in Lyndon Johnson's America. Today, it's all but extinct.
Do you agree?
And he idolized that guy. Yeah, I think it is. I think that version of... I do. I think that version of man is nearly extinct.
We talked about this on the last episode.
And I don't necessarily think that's negative, but that was something that he idolized and saw.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we missed some of it, for sure.
All right, I got one more. When you make something, when you improve something, when you deliver something, when you add some new thing to the lives of strangers, making them happier or healthier or safer or better, you're participating more fully in the whole grand human drama. I went to a creator conference where it was a bunch of entrepreneurs coming back to a college where there's a bunch of young entrepreneurs and helping them grow. A really cool event. And I was sitting there, and a guy who made money basically buying books and selling them and creating a store for used books had a payout,
Which is your dream.
I love that. I was enamored when he was at my table at the first night. I was like, no way, tell me more. And he was like asking me all these questions about my business. I was like, yeah, but tell me about these books. He sold for $8 million 8 mil.
Oh, wow.
And so he was telling me what his next venture was, and I was like, so tell me what spin-off things you can do when you have the knowledge of how to build a business like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he says there's lots of businesses that exist just in resale, but the problem is it's just a numbers game, almost like paying the money market, and it doesn't help anybody. It's not a service that actually improves the world. It's just making money because of like a math equation, and I can't get behind a business like that.
Yeah.
And he's right.
Yeah.
Like
That's why we give away this podcast for free.
Now, the one
'Cause it helps
caveat, that's right, at least the Germans, the one caveat I would have to that is if you can make money and then repurpose that money,
That's true.
because God blesses people that does, like, good stewards of money are given more because God wants you to do great things with your money. And so if you've proven that you can do that,
Yeah.
then making money, that's the one caveat I would say about that. But he's right about the business side, though.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I guess he's right about the business side, but this whole idea that everything that you do has to have a social connection to it is kind of silly, I think.
I don't know if that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying you need to. It's not a social connection. It's a purpose. Like it's like, what is this doing?
Yeah, I just mean this like whole like social entrepreneur where like every like this thing that I'm building has to have some purpose beyond the fact that it.
I think it has to go that far. Yeah.
Yeah, but if he wasn't employing anyone else, he wasn't. And I'm not saying that he wasn't, but yeah, if you don't,
You get his point. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying you get why he
it.
can't get behind it.
Yep.
Loved this. I think this was from the trade show in Chicago. That might have been the highlight of the weekend, maybe even the year. That is until I spotted a Puma sales rep leaning against a tree and looking suicidal.
Bowerman's strategy for running the mile was simple. Set a fast pace for the first 2 laps, run the third as hard as you can, then triple your speed on the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of how he ran the business.
Do you guys remember
that guy, that coach made such a difference in his life in terms of the way he thought about everything.
It's like when you were doing the dead hang and you said, as soon as you feel like you're going to fall, count down from 15 seconds.
Yep.
Changed everything.
Did I?
I got 15 seconds more at least.
You're welcome, man. Do you remember when he was watching the Olympics waiting for the dude to run and win in Nikes and he shows up in Tigers?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
He switched back to the shoes he won the Olympics in 1972, and I switched to vodka.
It's a good quote.
Loved this quote. This is on the early butt faces of Blue Ribbon. He says, "It was us against the world, and we felt damn sorry for the world." We've been on teams like that. Like that feels good.
Like the Pacers.
Like the Pacers.
Let's
2025
go,
Pacers.
Pacers!
Let's go Pacers.
Last quote for me. Did you know that Hitler's father was a customs inspector?
I had that one, yeah.
I remember where I was in my lawn when I heard that quote.
He looked at numbers the way a poet looks at clouds, the way a geologist looks at rocks. He could draw them rhapsodic song, demotic truths. I just read that and I thought, that is not me. That is not me.
That was the guy at the investment place.
Hayes.
Hayes, yeah.
That was Hayes, who ended up becoming essentially his CFO.
Yep.
Right. Man, I have a lot more. Let me see. You guys.
I got some hidden gems. I think we can blend the two.
Okay. That's
When
fine.
he started describing the description of the tennis player who had an attitude, instantly everyone knows it's John McEnroe.
Yeah.
I love that writing though. I love how he's like, you're gonna want to see this young tennis player. No one's taking him, and I think you'll like him. He has the worst attitude ever, and everyone's like, oh, it's got to be McEnroe.
Yeah.
Like, how would you like to go down in history, being known for like what would essentially be a negative thing, but he's since turned his brand just into humor. Like his personal brand, John McEnroe, is just like he's the funny guy that makes fun of himself being so angry playing tennis. You know what I mean?
And he's kind of got a Simon Cowell.
Yeah, you
Like,
desire
to
earn his approval.
Yep.
McEnroe's also a Knicks fan, so
It
Oh,
makes
is he?
me wonder how much
We got John Cougar Mellencamp.
it's especially with having a ghostwriter, how truthful that is, and then also the entire courtroom scene with the judge, what's his name, the judge of justice. What's the well, it's one of the judges' names, Judge James
Judge
the Just.
Judy.
James the Just is the name of the guy's name.
That's good.
The courtroom scenes are like, I loved them, but I'm also like, how accurate exactly are these? Because they're written so well, so well, much like the macaroni scene.
All right, couple for you.
Yep.
We're not broke. We just don't have any money. I like
That's
that.
true.
I think that was true, but he says it multiple times. I thought it was pretty funny. How about this? The average person takes 7,500 steps a day, 274 million steps over the course of a long life, the equivalent of 6 times around the globe.
That stat blew
Shoe
me away.
dogs, it seemed to me, simply wanted to be a part of that journey.
Yeah.
6 times around the world is crazy.
Pretty cool.
The guy that pitched Air Souls to Phil Knight, Phil Knight was like, nah, I'm not interested. And all he said was, yeah, that's what they said at Adidas too. And Phil's like, all right, let me see him.
Yeah.
Like,
So
you just got to know,
smart.
you got to know your audience.
Yeah.
So smart.
It's great.
There's a really cool quote on page 231 and 232 that they're not allowing me to say, but it's
Check it out.
really, really funny.
Check it out.
We'll always have pre.
What's that, Brett? What's he quoting? We'll
Well,
always have pre.
I know that he's quoting about their track athlete that died tragically.
No, he's
But-
quoting Casablanca.
No,
Yes, he is.
he says we'll always have pre. He's talking about He's
I
talking
know,
about
but he's
Prefontaine.
saying it in a way that he's quoting Casablanca.
Rem, here's the deal, dude.
We'll always have
nobody,
Paris.
Nobody
I
loves
don't think so.
Casablanca as much
I don't
as you
think he
do.
is.
Okay,
I think
nobody.
he is.
Nobody
he's
does.
not.
No.
No, he was saying.
I know what he's saying, but he's saying it with a way where he's paying homage to the greatest movie
When
of
you,
all
I don't
time.
when you
think he
say
was.
it angrier, it doesn't make it any more true.
He
Oh,
didn't
I'm not
watch.
angry.
He didn't
I
watch
s-
movies. He
I
had
get
no
frustrated
time for
when you're so
movies.
wrong.
Hey, Phil, could you email us?
Here's my hidden gem.
Phil,
the
could
cover
you
pod
please
at
email
gmail.com.
us? Yeah.
Here's my hidden gem. So they mistype Iona.
I
in the
guarantee
newspaper.
he's quoting Casablanca there. I guarantee
he
it.
isn't.
Yes, he
I
is.
guarantee
He's a
he isn't.
moviegoer. Yes,
They're
he is
printing
quoting.
I
all the
guarantee so.
colleges that Sonny has signed on to Nike, and they misprint Iona as Iowa.
Iowa.
Yeah, this is great.
Lute Olson
Lute Olson.
calls and is like,
Mhm.
"Dude, we got what's going on here? What?" He's like, "Ah, big mistake. You know, don't worry about it. Whatever." He's like, "Well, hold on. Who else is doing this?"
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Oh, what's this about? And they
Yeah.
end up signing Iowa.
And then
It
all of a
was pretty
sudden
good.
they misprint a bunch of things.
And I didn't realize Lute Olson came from Iowa because he's Arizona. That's where he won his
That's where
championship,
you were
right?
thinking of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's
White hair guy.
everybody's
Silver
coached
Silver
somewhere
Fox.
else. Huh?
Silver Fox.
Dick
Lute Olson?
Enright's coached places, you know.
So go back to the
Well done.
the
Very well done.
courtrooms in 1980. So they're in constant legal battles. What was the main legal battle they were in that with the FBI and all that?
With the well, that's the Hitler joke. The Hitler's dad was a customs.
It was a-
there was-
No.
The-
No, the bank turned him over to the FBI. That didn't end up being
Oh
much.
no, sorry.
But
The
the-
biggest
So they were
one
draining
was,
the resources. They're constantly coming after them. He's constantly in these meetings to
The
defend
big one-
he gets a
Nike to the
$25 million
FBI.
bill from customs because there's some. I don't even know what you would call it, but there's something where
Price fixing.
price
basically.
fixing where the other companies have gotten together, lobbied, gotten one of their knockoff shoes,
Mhm.
so that way they can find some loophole to
Yeah.
get
Mhm.
around this.
They're gunning after Nike.
They tried
and
to
turning
take
a blind
down,
eye on
they-
everybody else.
So the German companies tried to take down Nike.
Yeah.
Sorry about your love,
and-
Germans.
It is crazy that the U.S. would just be like, "Yeah, you guys owe us this money," you know, and not try to back
Because they
the
were also
U.S. company.
Well, they also had. It wasn't just German-based companies. It was the other companies too that hated Nike that were just.
yeah, but it was the big guns.
So anyway, all that's happening, and this happens for like the entire chapter, and you're just drained listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about the fact that the government, they kept fighting back, and they underestimated Nike's will to fight. And I just think that's so powerful. Like, I can't remember the
Yep.
exact quote, but they basically said, we underestimated their will to fight. Let's just settle. And now feels like I got you.
Just like
Because I'm not
Pacers.
going to settle. And so we're going to say they sent 25. No. 20. No. Give us something. Got to save face. And so ultimately, like, the only reason there was any money at all was because they had to have some type of win for the government so that the government didn't keep coming after them.
Yep. And then they went public, and then he had a lot of money.
How much?
178 million.
178 million overnight in 1980.
Now,
So,
when you are worth
18-year overnight success.
when you are
story.
worth 178 million overnight because of stock, what does that look like in
Liquid dividends and all
Yeah,
that.
like what's
I don't know overnight how much he
It's
was able to
hard
like
to
actually have
quantify.
dollars in pocket.
Right.
I mean, over the next couple of years, you take the dividends
But
and
you
you
could
can
certainly
sell,
borrow
you can
against
borrow
it or
against
whatever.
it, and all these
Got it,
things.
got it.
He was doing just fine. All right. You're not going to... I'm definitely going to get this quote in. Gentlemen, I said, our industry is made up of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And next year, finally, one of the dwarfs is going to get into Snow White's pants.
So ridiculous.
That was at a butt
That's
face.
why
That was at a
the
butt
newest
face meeting.
Snow White went woke. Is that quote?
Okay, this is talking about the guy that wrote that huge that book. Basically, he said he went full Patrick Henry. Give me your Nike or give me death. The patrons were ready to vote on the latter. Strasser tried to coax Werksel off the chair, but Werksel was just getting warmed up. Don't you people realize, he shouted, that freedom is on trial here? Freedom? Did you know that Hitler's father was a customs inspector?
Yeah, that's great.
I'm giving you the whole thing because that's just so funny, but so indicative of how like loyal
Yeah.
these guys were. I mean, to the point where people weren't cashing checks,
Dude,
to keep this.
Yeah.
So I wrote
company
this down
alive.
too. Like the loyalty of the 70s and 80s is different than now, because there was times later on in the late 70s where he's talking about the insubordination of some of his people, and it'd be stuff like they would literally just say no and disobey him and take fines and wear the wrong clothes just out of open insubordination, and he didn't fire them. And eventually they got over it. And it was like, in this day and age, it'd be instant. You're just gone.
Yeah.
And I don't know which side I don't know. I as I'm reading it, I'm seeing both sides. I'm like, I've been both. I've been on that other side where I was like, I should be let go, or I should break this partnership, or whatever it is. And then you're like, there's something romantic about like just sticking it out, even though you guys are fighting. But like, man, some of the stuff that they got away with, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I can't believe they didn't just fire this dude.
Yeah.
This is Phil firing his people.
Yeah.
Just loyalty, like to your point. All right, we got to move. We got to do
Can I
hidden
do one
gems.
more?
I think you're going to, regardless of what I
Thanks.
say.
Amid the campus buildings along the campus walkways, there are enormous banners, action photos of super athletes, the legends, the giants, the titans who elevated Nike to something more than a brand. Jordan, Kobe, Tiger. Again, I couldn't help but think about my trip around the world. The River Jordan, the mystical Kobe, Japan. That first meeting with Onitsuka pleading for the executives for the right to sell tigers. Can it all be a coincidence? I thought that
powerful.
was pretty cool.
It's a great ghostwriter.
I like it.
Rem, more hidden gems?
Well, speaking of the ghostwriter, we can talk about that real quick.
Yes.
Ghostwriter's name is J.R. Moringer.
J.R. Tolkien?
J.R. Moringer. I didn't see anywhere in the book there where he mentions it. So it's definitely like the truest form of ghostwriting.
Except that you found it.
This guy has written 3 other... I mean, so I guess this could just be like hearsay. 3 other books he's written. One was about Andre Agassi in 2009, which I'm going to have to read now. It's called
Yeah.
Open.
Oh, yeah. I actually have that book. I've never read it.
You should read it. Another one in 2023, 2 years ago, he wrote Spare, which I saw that was about Prince Harry. That came out. That's got to be good. And then the other one he wrote in 2005 is about his own life, The Tender Bar, best-selling memoir about Moringer's own upbringing on Long Island.
He's absurdly expensive.
It was adapted into a film in 2021, directed
Holy
by
cow.
George Clooney and starring Ben Affleck, The
Dude,
Tender
doesn't
Bar.
Grisham have a book called The Tender Bar?
No, he
Dude.
has it's called the...
Did you know George
It's
Clooney
something like that.
It
directed
is.
Boys in the Boat?
Who?
George Clooney directed Boys in the Boat.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah. We watched it this weekend. I'd never seen it.
He produced it or he directed it?
I don't think
he's the director. I
Interesting,
literally
'cause
said
we
to
did
Riley,
the book. We did the book for the cover, but
and
not the
and
movie.
for the record, by the way, The movie is not even close. I get if you've never read the book, you like the movie. It's not close.
It's a good movie. But
I won't even. Sure, it's not close.
That's Harry Potter.
Yeah, I get it. I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it now. It's not close.
It's also Lord of the Rings. Now that I'm listening to the Lord of the Rings books.
Really?
Yeah. It's
You're
so
talking
good.
about the Rooster Bar, which is a good book.
The Rooster Bar.
That's
I
all
like
about
that one.
That's all about the scam that they were creating with small colleges.
You
would like that. You would like
I
that.
really
now.
liked the Rooster Bar. That
Yeah.
was a good one.
It was good.
Phil Jackson makes an appearance.
Yep.
I thought that was interesting.
I'll tell you
So
the
does Michael Jordan.
The craziest cameo in
Oh my
2007.
gosh. I literally read the Jordan quote on purpose.
In 2007, he saw Bill Gates and Warren Buffett at a movie theater. What movie theater? What movie theater are these guys going to? So he sees
Well,
Warren.
it's in Florida.
He sees
Palm Springs.
Bill Gates and Warren Buffett at a movie
Palm
theater.
Springs, it's California.
His net worth at the time was $10 billion, and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett at the time was both 5 times more than that. And he's still shy amidst, apparent celebrities. Like he talks about like still being like kind of not feeling like he's one of them. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
$10 billion still doesn't get you to the
Get
the
you to
confidence
the table.
level.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
There's always a bigger
somebody,
fish.
Yeah, there's always a bigger fish. Also a good movie. I like that movie.
what?
I think
Big
a
Fish?
little controversial probably.
That's not where
if
that
it's
quote
a
comes
good
from,
movie or
but
not.
that is a good book or a good movie.
Well, there's always a bigger fish comes from another Ewan McGregor film.
Do you know what it's from?
Yeah, it's from Phantom Menace.
Yeah. Wow, that's a deep track,
Star Wars?
Mangus. Yeah.
Wow.
There's always a bigger
And
fish.
Big Fish is always
That-
also
by the
Ewan
way, that
McGregor.
fish-
Steven Spielberg, great.
Good Lord.
There's a Lewis Carroll reference, which takes us back to The Accountant,
Of course.
which I thought was important to mention.
The thread. So LeBron buys him a Rolex from 1972. Phil Jackson's asked when he founded his company. He's like, sure. He's
Phil
like,
Knight. Ask Phil.
Phil
Knight.
Knight.
Yep.
Found this Rolex and has it engraved and says, "Thanks for taking a chance on me." It's just a cool gift, man. When
Really
you
neat.
like those thoughtful gifts, like that's obviously a very expensive one, but comparatively, the money that those two are playing with is different. But like, it just makes you wonder, like, when's the last time you really thought through something, a token to give to somebody?
Yeah, I think that there's two things there. I agree with you that the meaningful gifts make such a big difference when it's clear that you went out of your way to come. Like, it's not a Rolex. Like, he can get a Rolex. It's a 1972 Rolex, and it has
The
something
thoughtfulness
engraved on it. The other thing that he says is like, well, Phil responds not to LeBron in the moment, but in the book he responds like, it wasn't much of a chance, but what he was right about is that relationships are everything, which is interesting because you talk about how like he treats people poorly or whatever, but I don't think that there's no way that he treated everybody poorly.
I don't think he did. I think that I think he writes in a humble manner where he admits his faults, and so those outshine how he really treated people. He's not going to brag about how he took care of them.
He's reflecting on the negative things.
I think you know how well he took care of them by the fact that they all stayed with him the
It's
entire
almost
time.
like an anti-memoir, which makes it like it makes
But
it
it's
so
still
much
so good,
different
yeah.
and great from that aspect.
Phil's alive, yeah?
Yeah.
He's still alive, yeah. I thought so.
We need to read these other books that this dude wrote.
Phil is literally
Dude, I'll read it open. I love Agassi.
Phil literally reads, "Thanks for taking a chance on me." He's like, "Dude, I did everything I could to outbid Adidas."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Sure, yeah,
Well,
whatever,
in that way, it's a chance. Like, it was expensive,
sure, yeah,
but not much of a chance.
yeah." I mean, who's Wembanyama would be the next most sure thing coming in the NBA? I'm guessing
not LeBron.
But
I don't know if he's the most sure thing.
there were people saying he was more of a shoe-in than LeBron, and I would say far they would, like, in today's NBA, whatever he's averaging is probably not the same as what LeBron was even averaging his rookie. I think LeBron averaged over 20 his rookie year, which in that NBA was probably, I don't know, 27, 28.
I think it's pretty obvious who the future of the NBA is.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Zach Edey.
Zach.
Gosh. Purdue Alliance is even more strong than the Pacers championship run. So we're up 2-0 going into game 3 at home. Rem's going
Tonight.
I think it's going to be like I think you saw Tiger had so many young golfers that idolized
honestly,
him,
the
and
new
now
one-
the newest golf, like the golf scene right now, is no one's as good as Tiger, and it's going to be a long time before you see anyone even close. But that the amount of golfers that are young and good,
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing with the NBA. I don't know that we're going to see the next someone who is Kobe,
LeBron or
LeBron,
Curry.
or
7 straight different MVPs.
Here's
Yeah.
Here's what's interesting.
It's just different.
If you were gonna honestly and truly pick somebody who is like the next one, it's Caitlin Clark. No, I'm dead serious.
She's not going to stay healthy enough because they're not protecting her.
But if you're gonna pick the person that's gonna like be the big endorsement or whatever, like
Yeah.
it's Caitlin Clark, and she's the one that's like Jordan, like Tiger.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
can't wait to watch the 30 for 30 20 years from now about Caitlin Clark.
We're just so we need to embrace this moment. We live right here.
Yeah.
Like we gotta
Sure.
embrace it. She's embracing Indy. It's pretty cool. I really hope that she stays for a long time.
Yeah.
I would call it Iowa Major is Indy. Iowa
Iona or Iowa?
Major. Either. Rating time, I am
Iona's
in
in New York.
8.8.
Splitting hairs over there. It's a 9.
It's a 9 for me.
This
This is why our books do so well, because we pick really good books.
Yeah.
Except
great book.
for 11.
We read
Rings.
so you don't have to.
But that was a Drew recommendation.
What's next? We got Top Gun Maverick,
Oh man.
Karate Kid, and Hamilton
Wow.
for 4th of July.
We're all ready to 4th of July.
That's a great, and I've watched bits and pieces of Karate Kid. I've never watched Karate Kid all the way through.
Really?
Yep.
Never mind. I don't even know why. I don't know why that's always
I
my
have seen Top
reaction.
Gun Maverick. I have seen Hamilton many times. Karate Kid,
I think my kids have seen more movies than you.
Mm-hmm.
probably, but that's not a good thing, Marcus. Just walked
All
into
the
that
things that Marcus brags about raise an eyebrow.
It's a weird choice.
Peace.
Nate, any parting shots? What about Shelly on summer break? Oh my gosh, we'll see you next week. Bye.